It is a Victory Monday and a pre-playoff Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That is Dan Lucero. 4 hours of 580 Sports Talk coming your way today on what is a wet and snowy and slick day across our beautiful state. Please be careful out there wherever you are driving to. We already got some nice words from our pal Ryan in the YouTube comments. Said everybody stay safe out there. No, all over the place. The roads are nasty. It's slick, so be careful. Stay inside. Stay warm. And either flip on the YouTube or flip on your radio and listen to 580 Sports Talk all day. Perfect solution for you on this nasty Monday afternoon here in the capital city and across Kansas. We've got a boatload to get to you today on 580 Sports Talk. The playoff matchups are set. It'll be Chiefs versus Dolphins. And I don't know if you know this, but while Dolphins do live in the water, I don't think they can survive in pure ice. And that's what it's going to be at Arrowhead Stadium coming up on Saturday night in the Peacock game, Chiefs versus Dolphins. We'll get you our final takeaways from Sunday's game against the Chargers, and we will look ahead to Chiefs versus Dolphins, Kansas City versus Miami, round 2. We're going to get the Tyreek Hill at Arrowhead game after all this year. That's going to be a fun sub-storyline in that one. And why I think this is almost the best matchup the Chiefs possibly could have gotten in this first round. So we'll get to that coming up. We'll go around the NFL. We'll break down some of the big storylines from Week 18, the playoff matchups. We'll also do that with Matt Verderame coming up in the 3 o'clock hour today, our NFL Insider. We're going to rank the playoff matchups, the most and least exciting ones of the weekend. We've already had some folks asking, are we going to talk hoops today? We will get to some college hoops in the 4 o'clock hour. K-State just annihilated UCF. That's not even a G5 team. Yeah, that team sucks.
Welcome to the Big 12, guys. It's going to be a long year. And the bad news for UCF in particular, that was probably the easiest game of their first 5 or 6 in league play.
Great.
Guess who's coming to Addition Financial Arena on Wednesday night?
Little rock chalk Jayhawk action in Orlando.
That's what the arena is called, by the way.
That sucks.
The game was very bad. I was there, and the game was pretty much over as soon as Tyler Perry started throwing literal flames from 3-point range in the second half, and it got to a 32-point lead at one point. And so I started reading through the game notes, as one does when the action on the floor isn't terribly compelling. Learned a lot. First of all, they are the UCF Knights. They're not the Golden Knights, and they are not Central Florida. They are the UCF Knights. Do not call them anything differently, or they will break your thumbs. Secondly, that's what their arena is called, the Addition Financial Arena.
No, fake program.
Big ad, the big plus sign.
I told Abby while we had the game on, we were flipping back between that and the NFL when I got home on Saturday night. I said, I happily would have just taken UCF football. Keep their basketball in the American. That's how you get Gonzaga in the league. UCF, keep your basketball away because that program stinks. Bring Gonzaga in. Also, further proof that sometimes numbers do lie. Because as we pointed out last week, UCF was ranked higher in the KenPom than K-State.
They had the 21st ranked defense in the country. And K-State scored at will. K-State, a team that has at times had trouble putting the ball in the basket, did whatever they wanted on offense against the 21st ranked defense in the country.
Whatever they wanted. So we'll break that down. We will get to the KU game. I know a lot of folks want to talk about the Hunter Dickinson foul, the points at the end of the game. We will get to that. I promise. 4 o'clock, top of the 4 o'clock hour. We're getting to college hoops coming up later on today. We've got some Black Monday coaching firings to get to from the NFL, a bunch of other headlines to get to. Surprisingly negative reaction to Sporting Kansas City moving the Lionel Messi game to Arrowhead. So we'll get to that in our headlines today. And we got to preview the national championship. We will crown a national champion in college football tonight. Undefeated Michigan, undefeated Washington. We're breaking that down in the 5 o'clock hour. All that's coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. We want to know what you're thinking about everything we're getting to on the show today. YouTube, comment section. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. You can check us out, of course, anywhere where you listen normally, FM, AM, and on the website. And you can hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429 is the text line number to let us know your thoughts on whatever we are getting to on the show today. I'm sorry about the Seahawks that they did not get in. Although, is this one of those years where you're actually happy they didn't get in? Like, was this a team that you were kind of done watching?
I don't want to watch that defense play ever again.
No,
I want Pete Carroll to put Clint Hurt into a box and mail him to Abu Dhabi. He is the worst defensive coordinator in the history of professional football.
Worse than Ken Norton Jr.?
Yes.
How?
Pete Carroll's been the head coach of the Seahawks since 2010.
Mm-hmm.
They've allowed 200-plus rushing yards in a game 17 times over that 13-year tenure. 6 of them were this season.
That's not great.
You know, what position did Clint Hurt coach before he got promoted inexplicably to defensive coordinator? He was the defensive line coach.
It's not great.
No, it's bad. It's really bad. I'm done with that team, man.
What about bringing Chris Richard back?
No.
He's unemployed right now.
It's Pete Carroll's moldy scheme in the first place. You keep doing what you've been doing. You keep getting what you keep getting. That's where the Seahawks are.
Yeah. I was very stoked yesterday. Packers beat the Bears.
I guess it's only fair because last year your Packers choked on applesauce in the Sunday night game and allowed the Seahawks into the playoffs.
That's
true.
I
guess turnabout is fair play.
Yeah.
This year, once again, we have to stop. As a Seahawks fan, I would like to see my team stop staking our fortunes to an also ran in the NFC North every year on the last week of the season. Just like, I don't know, beat the Steelers.
Yeah.
And then this doesn't happen.
No, that's entirely fair.
Beat the Rams one time and this doesn't happen. I don't know. Lots of alternatives.
I was saying that to Abby, though, yesterday, too. We were talking about how last year Packers were in the same position. You're 8-8 going into the final week of the season. Winning, you're in. You made this big comeback late in the season to get to this point. Got to beat a divisional rival to get in. But I said last year, like, that Packers team did not deserve to get in. They were not especially fun to watch, even though Aaron Rodgers was still on the team. This year, it's like, hey, this is new. This is exciting. They're fun and young. They don't know any better. Much more entertaining. Sometimes you do get to a point at the end of the regular season where you just say, I'm kind of done watching this team. Like, this team's era is over. Let's move on. So I was wondering if maybe the Seahawks were kind of in that group.
I don't know. Draft a linebacker that can tackle. Just one. Just one who can run and tackle. Because Bobby Wagner can tackle and he can't run.
I was going to say Bobby Wagner led the NFL in tackles.
Yes, and Jordan Brooks can run, but he can't tackle. So, let's draft one that can do both.
The Chiefs won their game yesterday. I did get one of the final scores right. I think what did you have the final score being? 16-13?
Yeah.
Yeah, we both got close. I had 19-12. Chargers got to 12.
Yeah. It was about all they were capable of.
Yeah, it was. Look, we recapped this on YouTube on the Instant Reaction Show last night. We'd love for you to go check it out. It's the featured video on our channel right now. And again, 580 Sports Talk is where you can find us on YouTube. There are a couple things that you can say, as much as this game didn't matter for seeding or what will actually happen in the playoffs. McCole Hardman getting back in the mix, getting kind of a warm-up game. You might legitimately need him in the playoffs to sort of get him out there. That was worthwhile. The fact that everybody seemed to be in a good mood and was celebrating the Chris Jones, sack incentive and was all fired up, running down the sideline with Mike Edwards on his return touchdown. Positive.
The vibes have improved. And I think this was a Chiefs season that was starting to feel like a bad vibes year. And the vibes have been, I think, restored a little bit. As much as you can restore them in a game where almost none of your starters are playing, it still, I think, was good to see that this team's got a level of camaraderie, a level of togetherness. And we saw that on display in the celebration on the sideline when Chris Jones finally got his sack and got his $1.25 million incentive for it. I think that any concern about a fractured locker room or a dispirited sideline or a team that just was too frustrated to get back on track, I think that those at least have been dispelled by what we've seen the last 2 weeks, and the vibes have improved going into the postseason. And that's not nothing. I mean, that's not, vibes don't equal points, but it's not nothing that the spirits are higher and that there's a little positivity around the team rather than the negativity that had kind of threatened to drag the season down there for a while in November and early December.
So that's good, and I can understand if it sounds like you're just trying to spin something out of nothing here.
Well, what do you want me to talk about? You want me to talk about Blaine Gabberts?
Yeah. Okay. You think Chad Henne is busy? I think he's up to anything.
He's doing Subway commercials.
Yeah, that's true. What a life. Backing up Patrick Mahomes for a few years got you probably a really nice post-playing career chunk of change from Subway.
He's got good company that's really nice that his teammate let him be in the commercial with him. Stratosphere. Like Nikola Jokic is doing commercials for Hotels.com, and it's not like one of the other recognizable Nugget stars. It's Peyton Watson, their sixth man, who's in the ads with him. Like,
okay.
Yes, that was really nice of Nikola to let Peyton be in the commercials with him. And that's how I feel about Chad Henne getting to be in the Subway ads.
Yeah, nice little gig for Chad Henne.
Better passer probably than Gabbert. Like Gabbert's got a huge arm still. Like you could see that. Takes him forever to get rid of the football, but big arm.
I did see a lot of tweets that were like, okay, well, this game was worthwhile because we now know that Blaine Gabbert is worse than Matt Moore and Chad Henne. Yeah, that's probably true.
Tell you what, crazy legs Gabbert there on the game-winning drive.
Yeah.
Making plays with his legs. He looked like Mahomes out there.
He ran very aggressively. It was like he was trying to imitate Isaiah Pacheco as best as he could.
Did. They said, do your best Pacheco impersonation while you're running out there.
So
and then he and McCole Hardman are that's the new like Montana to Rice.
Yeah, pretty much. Jeez, what a group. We get Dolphins Chiefs as our wild card round matchup in Kansas City. And we'll get to the other matchups here over the course of the show. But the Dolphins just putzed around. Tua looked pretty bad on Sunday Night Football against the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen didn't look all that great either, but there was a difference. The difference was when you needed plays at the end of the game, one of those quarterbacks made them, the other one didn't. And as much as I like Tua Tagovailoa and have said for years that I'm a Tua guy, that interception he threw at the end of the game, was it a bad route by Chase Claypool? Yes. Was it also a terrible throw? Equally, yes.
So I was talking, my wife and I were watching the end of the game, and on the play before the game-sealing interception, Tua looks for Tyreek Hill because that's the only guy really he was looking for all night was Tyreek Hill. And he overthrew Tyreek Hill, and Hill went down kind of heavy and went to the sideline. Like, if you've been watching the Dolphins, like Tyreek Hill has still been very productive and had an unbelievable season, and he's going to be first-team All-Pro and all those things. He's been walking around like Red Fox in Sanford and Son for the last like month and a half.
Every game, there are 2 or 3 moments where he makes a catch, gets tackled fairly normally, and then limps off the field. And I said it jokingly on Twitter earlier in the year that he leads the league in hits that look like they're major injuries, but he's just fine. Mm-hmm. But eventually that piles up over time.
Yeah, he looks beat up. He does. He look and like, football people will tell you at the end of a 17-game season, everybody's beat up. And there's a kernel of truth to that, but it's noticeable with Tyreek Hill. Anyway, he went off the field for the next snap. Mm-hmm. And I said out loud to my wife, well, Tua has only been looking at Tyreek Hill this entire drive. Let's see who he looks at on this next snap. And then he threw into double coverage to Chase Claypool. And the pass was intercepted. And I said out loud, apparently the other team is the correct answer to that question. So, that was a wretched way to finish, a bad way to finish the season for the Dolphins. They're about out of pass rushers. Andrew Van Ginkel hurt his foot. They immediately ruled him out. I don't know about whether he's going to play Saturday, but I mean, it's a short turnaround for some of those guys that were banged up. Cameron Good was another one they were playing a lot. He gets hurt on a special teams play, and they have to cart him off.
He was a core special teamer who they had to play more on the edge, and now he's out.
So,
and he ain't playing because that leg got stabilized.
Yeah, so they are very much the walking wounded, and I know like they didn't have Raheem Mostert last night, and they get him back ideally this week. The same with Jalen Waddle, which gives Tua at least another receiver he can look at down the field, other than only trusting Tyreek Hill, but. Again, if we're talking about vibes, they are very bad around this Dolphins team, which has suffered a lot of injuries here in the last month. They tricked off a division title that was all but theirs and had a chance to win it at home. And we're up in the second half and went punt, interception on their last 5 drives of the game. And look, the Vegas line opened at 1.5. The Chiefs being 1.5 point favorites. It was 3.5 before you could blink.
Yep.
And I do not typically make grand, bold proclamations as a matter of course. Mostly because I don't like being wrong and having my face rubbed in my wrongness. Even though I am wrong a lot, you'd think I'd be used to it by now. I'm not. I like to be right. So sometimes I couch my predictions. I'm not couching this one. I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Dolphins like they owe them money.
This game, to me, it is the second best possible outcome for this matchup. And the only reason it's second and not first is just when you're talking about raw talent, Miami is better than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is, I think, it's a credit to Mike Tomlin, and it's a credit to that team, and I guess Mason Rudolph, that they somehow got to 10 wins. The fact that that team won 10 games is something of a miracle. They got to the playoffs, and credit to them. But in terms of just quality of team on paper in practice, that's the worst team in the playoffs. But when you consider everything else that goes into this Dolphins team, their defense already wasn't very good to start the season, and they never had everybody all at the same time, which is unfortunate for them. But they have no edge rushers left. They are out. They have lost edge 1 through 4. And they got Melvin Ingram, who at this stage of his career needs to be a situational pass rusher. And that's fine. Dudes since Dwight Freeney have been making really nice careers as well-traveled situational edge guys. They've got him dropping into coverage on 15-yard outs. I mean, I don't even feel... I feel bad for Melvin Ingram. I don't blame him for giving up a completion on a play like that.
No.
He's a mid-30s edge rusher. You're trying to drop in coverage. That's not going to work. They're so beaten up defensively. So that's already a bad situation to be in with a group that already wasn't especially talented. Tua is not playing good football right now and really hasn't for a few weeks. Not a position you want to be in with your quarterback going into a playoff game against not just anyone, but one of the best defenses and maybe the best pass defense in the entire NFL. And what, Dan, for forever, for the entire history of the existence of the Miami Dolphins has always been the knock, the complaint, the criticism, and the worry about them in the playoffs. Literally the entire time they've existed.
Going into playing cold weather.
Because they're used to the good weather of Miami, and they're used to that kind of home cooking, literally cooking when you're playing games in Miami. It's going to be in the neighborhood of 70 in Miami this weekend. It is going to be anywhere between 20 and below 20 at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City this Saturday night. Like, that entire concoction of problems makes this such a brutal situation for Miami. I don't really feel sympathy. I mean, that's the way the cookie crumbles in the NFL. But it lines up so well for the Chiefs because you can point to this Chiefs team, and we've hit on it ad nauseum over the course of the year. We will continue to do so going forward into this matchup on Saturday, talking about the issues the Chiefs have, the receiver problems. And it's not always easy to catch a rock-hard ball. And for a team that can't catch a soft football, that's a worry, obviously. There are issues with turning the ball over. I understand that with this Chiefs team. But take the Chiefs' issues, the Chiefs' talent, and the Chiefs' coaching, and compare it just one-to-one with the issues that the Dolphins have talent-wise, the issues the Dolphins have with their coaching, and the issues that the Dolphins are going to have with everything we just laid out, the injuries, the weather, etc. How do you not make the Chiefs a heavy favorite in this game? And that's both rhetorical and not. Like, everything here should line up favoring Kansas City.
Weather aside, I just think the Dolphins are soft. I just think that's a soft football team. I think that's a team that when they face adversity, they shrivel up. They get small.
And that's compounded by rough conditions, right?
Yes. I mean, it doesn't help. I mean, if you're going to go in and lean on your passing game. Now, they've got a really good running game. And we saw, like, Devin Achane broke a big touchdown run last night. Early on in the game, they broke some big chunk runs with Achane. And certainly Mostert is capable of that. Well, Mostert scored like 20 touchdowns this year, something like that. Mm-hmm. Like, they're capable on the ground. But you ever notice that they do something like that's creative in the running game and then they keep doing it and keep doing it? Then when a team figures out what they're doing and they stop it, there's no counterpunch. Like, that was the second half last night. Like, once the Bills sort of figured out what the Dolphins were trying to do with their ground game and they started stringing out some of those runs and they limited the chunk runs, there was no plan B. I've been saying this since the start of the season with Mike McDaniel, who I like. I like Mike McDaniel a lot. I like a lot of the individual pieces on this offense. They are not counterpunchers.
Nope.
If you flatten them, they don't get off the mat. And I think at home with a week of what is essentially rest for your team, the Chiefs are effectively coming off of a bye for all of their important players. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be able to throw a punch, and I don't think the Dolphins are getting up off the mat. I that is how I see this game unfolding. I really do. Now, I know the Chiefs are no longer an offense that you look at and you just take for granted that they're going to score 30 points. But Mahomes against the Miami pass rush, such as it is, I think is in line to have a pretty good game coming off of a week of rest. I do. I think this is I think that the Chiefs will totally command this football game. I'm not saying it's going to be like 41-3 or anything like that when I say they're going to beat them like they owe them money, but I think this will be a 60-minute controlled football game by the Kansas City Chiefs coming up on Saturday.
It feels with Miami like a very similar issue to what the Rams had in the first portion of Sean McVay's coaching career and the Jared Goff years with the Rams, where if you couldn't essentially pre-plan what was going to happen and make things as simplistic as possible, you've got all this, intense conceptual design, and then it was, Jared, this is where you go. Some plays you're going to have a second read, some plays you're not, and you're just going to check it down to Todd Gurley. It looked complex. That's what they like to call the illusion of complexity, but especially for the quarterback, they tried to make it as simple as they possibly could. I think you're in a similar situation in Miami. I think Tua's ceiling is higher than Jared Goff, but I think whether it's something McDaniel's got to learn and develop, whether it is a problem with Tua, I don't know. It's also a problem because their offensive line stinks. But if you don't get to that first read, and if you've got any of your mega speedsters off the field and you've got to go into the off-schedule throws, do you trust that the offense is built to do it? And do you trust that Tua Tagovailoa can do it? Right now, the answer to both is no. And if you don't have that guy, when you get to the playoffs where everything is tighter, where it feels like the field is smaller, where mistakes are magnified more, you are in a position where one play can completely end your season. It might be a first half fumble or a first half interception or something. And it might not seem like a big deal, grand scheme of things, but everything is so much more magnified. You've got to have full trust in your scheme and in your personnel. And for the Dolphins, I don't know that you can right now. And I don't know that you should right now. Well, might as well just touch on it here before we get to a commercial break. This game is going to be on Peacock. And if you live to the east of us here in the capital city, if you're in Douglas County, you're in the Kansas City area, or you're a little bit south, you can watch the game on your regular old over-the-air TV. You can watch it on KSHB.
Yes, if your NBC affiliate is KSHB, you will be able to watch the Chiefs on over-the-air television, just like you've watched every Chiefs playoff game ever. But if your NBC affiliate is not that, if it is the Topeka affiliate, if it is the Wichita affiliate, the Wichita ABC affiliate, if it is the Omaha affiliate, whatever direction you're listening to us, you are going to need to be subscribed to the Peacock streaming service. For what it's worth, if you get it, you can count on a really crisp and clear broadcast. I full disclosure, subscribe to it, have for a while. Watching live sports on Peacock, to me, that's a better streaming experience than any of the other streaming apps for live sports. Like, I think it's better than ESPN Plus. I think it's better than Amazon Prime. I think the picture's crisper. I think I've never had a problem with like buffering, anything like that. Like, it's good. It's going to be a good broadcast, but it's the principle of the thing, right? Like,
right.
This was something that was always free. It used to be that all of the playoff games were on over the air. You could watch them for the cost of an antenna. And now you are being asked to pay. And I don't know what the introductory, I'm sure Peacock's got like an introductory fee to subscribe and give it a try. Maybe even they got like a 7-day trial. I don't know. But you're going to have to subscribe to this. You're going to have to pay money to watch the Chiefs in the playoffs. And I get why that is upsetting. And I sympathize with everyone who is upset about that, because I do think it sucks. And I do think it's cynical on the part of the NFL. I think it's cynical on the part of NBC Universal. And it stinks. It stinks for everybody who may not even have the means to get a good enough internet signal to be able to watch this game. So just know that we are sympathetic, and we and your local NBC affiliate had nothing to do with this.
No, don't call KSNT angrily. It's not their fault. Because I know we know folks over there. We know they get those phone calls every year.
Yeah.
It is not their fault. It's an NFL choice. and it does. And in our part of the country, the internet connection speed, that is a problem. That we've heard that for years when it comes to ESPN Plus.
Parts of rural Kansas where you've got diehard, lifelong Chiefs fans who watch every game, maybe people who aren't as technologically savvy as people in your generation and mine, Brendan, which is roughly the same. I'm not that much older than you are. But the advantages that we have are not enjoyed by everybody. And it does. It sucks. And like small town, like sports bars, watering holes where you might say, oh, well, I'll just go and watch the game there. They might not have the means to do that. So it's really, really unfortunate. And I was hoping it wouldn't be the case. I was really pulling for the Chiefs to get the Sunday night window or the early NBC game on Saturday. I thought that was a possibility. But this is the league throwing one of its television partners a bone. NBC wants people to pay for Peacock.
Yep.
That's at the end of the day, NBC wants to get you in the door, and they think that enough like Law and Order Archive and Monk and Poker Face, which is actually a really good show. Like if y'all subscribe to Peacock, you should at least watch Poker Face before you deactivate. Natasha Lyonne is great.
You haven't even hit on the big one yet. The reason why I think a lot of Peacock subscribers have Peacock.
The Bravo stuff.
Well, no, my wife, yes,
yeah.
But The Office.
Oh yeah, the Office. Premier League. If you're a soccer fan, you might already be paying for this.
Yeah.
You can watch Premier League. Like Big Ten. If you're a fan of a Big Ten school, you're going to need to be subscribed to this because they're putting a bunch of basketball on there.
Northwestern just beat Michigan State on Peacock.
Yeah, so like maybe some of you have it, and this is like my wife and I. This is I guess that's how we'll have to watch it. But her parents are going to have to they might have to come over.
And and that's the thing that sucks is that for I don't blame you if you are less technologically skilled or adept, or you just are you don't want to have 900 apps to do everything. I get it, and I bet it feels like you are being left behind, and I sympathize with that because that sucks. And you're ignored.
You're being extorted a little bit. Yeah. If you are a Chiefs fan or you are a Dolphins fan, you're being extorted a little bit. And I think the NFL probably loses. Like if you're let's say you're a Texans fan and your game is on NBC on that Saturday. If the next game isn't on NBC, are you going to pay for Peacock so you can watch the game? If you're a fan of a team that's out of the playoffs and you just like to casually watch football, are you going to pony up for one game? I bet you're not. And I don't know if the league feels this. I think this is the NFL maybe making a bet on itself a little bit, and I'll be fascinated to see what the streaming numbers are. But you are right as a viewer to feel a little bit extorted and a little bit taken for granted here with the NBC Universal believing, yeah, you'll break us off. What are you gonna do? Not watch the Chiefs?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Not watch the playoffs? And I bet for most of you, they're probably right, because if it's really important to you, you find a way to do it, right? Yep. It's just like with anything. Like if you were a Big 12 fan and you were upset about the ESPN Plus Big 12 Now when that got announced a few years back, we said the same things. If this is important enough to you that you want to watch it, you will make it happen. Like you'll just make it happen.
2 quick notes. One, if you have a really strong antenna for your TV, you can probably pick up the Kansas City TV stations from Topeka. The problem is by the time you buy one, you've already spent more than it'll cost to get Peacock.
Yeah, that's true.
You're kind of stuck there.
That's
also,
true.
I'm not surprised at all that the Chiefs ended up in this game. Not even remote. The Chiefs have played a bunch of Saturday playoff games in recent memory. And 2, it's Patrick Mahomes. Remember the first Amazon Thursday Night Football game? It was the Chiefs and the Chargers. It was Mahomes versus Herbert.
When ESPN ABC got a Saturday doubleheader on the final week of the regular season for the first time, who was one of the games?
Chiefs.
It was Chiefs Broncos.
Chiefs Broncos.
Yeah,
that's what
it was Chiefs Broncos.
Yeah.
So yes, they will take every opportunity to try and get a team that is popular league wide, and try and put them in a position to where you got to pay extra for them. I'm trying to find right now. I'm trying to look it up and see like what is your get in if you are trying to subscribe. It looks like it's $5.99 a month to subscribe, and that probably you're gonna have to break off $6.
Yeah,
it's like
Yeah.
We got some texts from 785. I've heard it's a disaster to cancel. You just got to set yourself a phone alarm, right? Like, in a week, like, hey, remember to cancel this. And I don't know, take an extra long lunch that day or something if it's really that much of a pain. Another one from the 785, the Chiefs game, the only one. Yes, it is. It is the only stream exclusive game of the playoffs. It's the first time they've ever done it. If it goes poorly enough, maybe it'll be the last time. I did laugh at this from the 785. It's to get extra cash from the Swifties.
I have heard that. I have heard
that conspiracy theory. I enjoy it. There's some conspiracy theories that are fun.
Business is business, man. It's trying to make a buck.
But no, just know that if this makes you angry, if this hacks you off, if this has you with a sour taste in your mouth, just know we are sympathetic here.
Get it. 100% get it. We do have to get to a timeout. When we come back, we will look at some of the other big storylines from Week 18. Plus, we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly all coming up in this initial hour of 580 Sports Talk. Regarding the Peacock situation, Mark in the YouTube comment says, I don't need Peacock. I'll just listen to Mitch Holthus.
Works for us.
Yeah, sounds good to us. You can, of course, hear the Chiefs throughout the postseason right here on your home for Chiefs football in Northeast Kansas, 580 WIBW. Until we get to, is it just the Super Bowl or is it the championship games as well?
I think it's the championship games now that Westwood One makes you take the national feed if you're not in the home market. So,
but don't worry, because we will have your Westwood One feeds for you.
Yes, we will. You can listen to all the Chiefs games right here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9.
And should the Chiefs get back to the Super Bowl, it's not quite the same as having Mitch Holthus on the call, but if Kevin Harlan is your consolation prize, you're doing all right.
That's a fact.
He is the absolute best. Around the NFL this weekend, a handful of things really stood out to me, including multiple storylines from the AFC South, which is weird to say. Positive side, okay? Positive storyline first. I don't know if there's a better story in the NFL this year overall than the Houston Texans, who second overall pick, even with Stroud, no one thought they'd be any good. They lose their rookie star receiver, Tank Dell, for the season halfway through the year. They won their division. Now, it took help to get there at the end of the year. They only went 9-8 and won the division, but a first-time head coach, a rookie quarterback, one of the youngest teams in the NFL, tons of unproven talent on both sides of the ball. They won their division, and they won it with a really fun game on Saturday night. Like, Stroud's here. We don't need to do the, year one was... No, Stroud's here. CJ Stroud is the franchise quarterback of the Houston Texans.
We talked about on Friday's show, Stroud having great numbers against cover 3 defenses like Indianapolis runs, and he was all over them from the jump through that incredible deep ball for the touchdown on their first drive, and just never let up. He was terrific.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch them.
And full credit to Houston, who for a couple of years there, they had that weirdo Jack Easterby in charge. It was like they were running like a particularly muscular Christian men's group instead of trying to have an actual NFL football franchise. They couldn't get anybody to take the head coaching job because it was obvious that it was a short-term position. Poor David Culley was there for a year. Lovie Smith took some arrows there for a little while. They really wanted to hire Josh McCown, and somebody finally talked themselves out of that particular curious obsession of theirs. They went and got a real football guy in charge of the organization, Nick Caserio. They put a real head coach on the sideline, and they got a real quarterback, and now they're a real team again.
Yeah.
So welcome back to being a real organization. For a while there, the Texans were as embarrassing an organization as there was in sports, and they flipped that on its ear in 1 year. Very impressive.
And while I understand that until the allegations surfaced, we did not know that Deshaun Watson was the nasty man, and his reputation was actually almost sterling at the start of his time in Houston, so you never quite know. CJ Stroud is awesome. And the way he handles himself and just he's the kind of guy who he played at Ohio State, and he could be cocky because of that. And being, Ohio State quarterback is a big deal. And he has been through a lot in his life away from football that would, beat down the average man. But he is just a blast to listen to, a very easy guy to root for. I think D'Amico Ryans is an extremely easy guy to root for, too. So it's cool. It's very cool to see them finding a lot of success. Also from the AFC South, I said it on Friday, maybe the biggest disappointment in the entire NFL relative to expectations, whether they won or lost this weekend, was the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then they did lose from 8-3 to 1-5 to end of the year and out of the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence did not have a good game. I mean, he had one great throw against Tennessee. And I told you that is just such a Mike Vrabel game. Nothing to play for against a team with everything to play for and a bunch of stress. And you come out and play maybe your best game of the entire year. They had 4 interceptions all year entering that game. They come up with one. Derrick Henry in his final game as a Titan, in all likelihood, I mean, he waved goodbye to the fans and he knows it's over. He was as good as he's ever been. Awesome game for the Titans and a hilariously embarrassing game for the Jaguars.
I think for Trevor Lawrence's part, I hope for his sake that it was injuries that caused him to struggle down the stretch the way that he did. He went through a lot. He had the concussion. He had the shoulder injury. He didn't look right, I don't think, in that game. He didn't look like Trevor Lawrence at his best. But that being said, you go from 8-3 to missing the playoffs. Somebody's key card ain't going to work. Do we know if Press Taylor's key card still works, the offensive coordinator?
Look, it shouldn't, but here's the thing, and this is why, as much as I like Doug Peterson, and I think he's a great coach, if you're a Jags fan, you should be very scared. Doug Peterson was willing to get fired from a job with which he won a Super Bowl, the only Super Bowl in franchise history. He was willing to get fired over Press Taylor.
Yeah.
And that's your play caller in Jacksonville.
And he stinks at it, man.
He's so bad.
They are very unimaginative with all of the skill talent they have. They throw so many screens that don't work. Nobody loves the tight end screen more than they do. And that play, I've never seen that play work for them. Like somebody got to go. I don't know who it is, but somebody's got to be held accountable for that. And doesn't sound like it's going to be Doug Peterson. It certainly won't be Trevor Lawrence, although contract negotiations with Lawrence are going to be very interesting for the Jaguars because he is going into that 5th year option or that 4th year. And obviously they're going to pick up his 5th year option, but what kind of money is Trevor going to get?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Very interesting.
A couple other things real quick. I will talk more about the Packers next segment and good, bad, and ugly because I'm pretty fired up. Brought the cutoff back. Playoffs are back. You got to believe.
That is the best argument for reinstating a dress code here in this building that we've had in a long time.
The other thing, it's over for the Eagles. They are not a Super Bowl contender. It is over. I do not care if they win this. I I do not care. This team will not win a Super Bowl. It is over. Stick a fork in them. They're done.
Yeah, that was humiliating to come out and play the way they did.
And then quit.
Yeah, they got Jalen Hurts injured. They got A.J. Brown injured. I'm not sure they're going to beat the Buccaneers on Monday night. They look pretty cooked, and I wonder if Sirianni survives if they lose. Like his job. I don't mean they're going to. I mean, it's Philly fans. You never know, right?
It is Philly.
No, I wonder how he keeps his job if they slide like this and then they lose in the first round of the playoffs. I would not be surprised if that was the end for Nick Sirianni.
He is as much D'Amico Ryan's really easy guy to root for. It is so easy to hate Nick Sirianni. Remember when he screamed and yelled at Chiefs fans in the tunnel for a regular season win?
Chiefs fans remember because I saw that clip all over my timeline the last 2 weeks pointing out, hey, the Eagles have only won one game since he did this. Hey, the Eagles have hit the skid since he treated winning in regular season game like it was the Super Bowl.
No, they're done. They're absolutely toast. Let's get to a timeout. When we come back, big, busy weekend. We're going to break it all down with the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's coming up right after this on 580 Sports Talk. Recapping the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Dan, what you got for your good?
Good for the weekend. KU and K-State opening conference play with victories and a stress-free Chiefs victory on Sunday made for an enjoyable sports weekend in Northeast Kansas, I can imagine. The best kinds of wins are ones that you really don't have to sweat over because if you lose, it doesn't matter. And if you win, it's just kind of nice. It did. It had that preseason vibe to it a little bit watching on Sunday. And the good also, everyone's response to Chris Jones getting his 10th and a half sack. Again, if you thought that there was like dissension or frustration and guys weren't happy on the Chiefs sidelines, they look like one big happy family celebrating Chris Jones getting paid $1.25 million.
Yep.
So again, it was a vibe restorer for the Chiefs on Sunday. So that's all good.
The good for me is that a Topeka native is a national champion. South Dakota State hammered Montana in the FCS national championship game on Sunday afternoon. Montana scored 3 points. They were never in it. And that was a good team for Montana, but South Dakota State, they're built different right now. Brody Gormley, longtime multi-sport standout for the Seaman Vikings, is on the roster for South Dakota State. Saw action in 5 games this year, including getting on the field for a couple of snaps in yesterday's national championship game. So he is forever part of a national championship winning team at South Dakota State. So shout out to the tight end from North Topeka, Brody Gormley. How about that?
Very cool. Very
Awesome
cool
for
stuff.
him.
Yes. My bad we're going to get into this in greater detail at 4 o'clock when we talk more college basketball. But there was an officiating decision that impacted the end of the Kansas TCU game. And I am filing it under bad, not because I particularly have strong feelings about the call itself, but that I am so tired of talking about officiating after games, especially great games, close games. I am so tired of circling back and discussing officiating. It's just, I don't, it's not the fun part of talking about sports, is talking about whether the official got something right according to the rule book or should have let it slide because of the game situation or whatever it is. I'm tired of talking about officials, man. I'm just so tired of talking about officials.
It's boring. It is so boring. It is just a stream of complaining, and I do not like it. I do not like it one bit.
That being said, we are going to talk about it because it was the talking point. I'm just saying I wish fewer games we came away with. I wish it happened less often. That we came away with officiating as a major talking point about a what was otherwise a fabulous college basketball game.
No, I 100% agree. My bad from Green Bay, Wisconsin this weekend. A TV reporter was doing a hit outside of Lambeau Field and was talking about how, hey, people are so excited that the playoffs are back in Green Bay. And Packers all-pro cornerback Jair Alexander saw that the TV hit was going on. Now, first things first, if you ever see someone doing a TV hit, you probably shouldn't come up and distract them because that puts them in an uncomfortable situation, not something you should normally do. However, Jair Alexander, being the guy he is, walked up and yelled, "The Pack is back, baby!" And he did the seatbelt celebration. He likes to really play it up, which, okay, that's fine. That's him being him. The TV reporter said, "See, even the fans are excited about this."
Man, that's tough for a guy who's been an all-pro.
Yeah. Now, I believe that the woman who is doing this report is fairly new to Green Bay and may not know the faces of every player.
I would think so.
That's an all-pro cornerback, man. That is not just a fan. Got a couple guys you got to know Jordan Love's face. You got to know Jair Alexander's face. Like here, can you imagine if Travis Kelce came up and did that and was like, "Oh yes, this fan is very excited."
Yeah, like he came up and started flexing. Well, maybe Kelsey's a bad example because he's famous now.
That's true.
If it was somebody like
Chris Jones.
Yes, it was Chris Jones. Yeah, Chris Jones was doing something, and then somebody holding a KCTV5 mic flag going, "Wow, this Chiefs fan is sure fired up about his team's great success. How far did you come for the game today, sir?"
Chris Jones would play it up too.
No, he would.
He would love that.
I think he would. That would be the right guy to do it.
Oh yeah. Did you have an ugly from this weekend?
We talked about this a little bit off the air. So UCF lost to K-State in the conference basketball opener for both teams on Saturday, and this is when I knew that UCF was in trouble. I was watching them during warmups, and they took off their warm-up tops. They had their jerseys. And you know how, for the K-State uniforms, all of the names on the back of the jersey are the same font and the same size?
Of course.
No matter, how long the name is. It's, the same font.
Yeah.
And, KU, same deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
UCS names on the back of their jerseys were, all over the place. You had, some were bigger than others. You had the one Lithuania kid, Makash, I think is his name.
Mm-hmm.
His looked like it was in a different font than everyone else's. It looked like it might have been a little less serify, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They looked sloppy. It looked like if you got your intramural team and you all got names put on the back of your jerseys at different embroidery locations across Greater Topeka or something. And they did different font here, or they did different size at that place. It looked sloppy. It looked amateurish. It looked like a team that was about to get dump trucked. And in the end, that's what happened. Clean it up, UCF. Your equipment manager's got to be on the ball.
My ugly, I would like to again go back to Packers Bears from this weekend. I'd like to go to Bears safety who after the game said this: "He's Jaquan, then who the hell are you?" Yikes. I love that dude, though. He talks nonstop, and he's a bum. He is a bum. and he never shuts up. I love it. I hope he gets a lifetime contract in Chicago. That does it for the opening hour of 580 Sports Talk. Coming up at the top of the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to rank our excitement levels for each of the wild card round playoff games. We'll talk to Matt Verderame, and we've got a whole lot more coming up on next hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. final 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk on a Victory Monday. I'm Brendan Dworzynski. He's Dan Lucero. We're with you until 6 o'clock today. Plenty to get to in this 3 o'clock hour. Still NFL heavy as we get ready for the Super Wild Card weekend. I loved, obviously, that's just branding. So, you think about this, you think Super Wild Card weekend. It's a big deal. It's all marketing and branding. I loved this past week, though, watching any of ESPN's coverage of the NFL, whether it was their doubleheader of games or, ESPN's Sports Center coverage leading up to or whatever. Every time they would promo the playoff bracket, they would say 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and then the annual Monday night playoff game. Like, it was written in all bold on their read. Like, the annual, no one calls it that. No one is saying, oh, man.
Just like nobody's going to call the Chiefs game the Peacock exclusive playoff game.
NFL Network did that, too. When they had the triple header, it was NFL Network's exclusive broadcast series.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember telling my dad how excited I was to hang out with him and watch the NFL Network exclusive broadcast series.
Not everything needs a name.
Man, I can't wait for Eagles-Bucks in the annual Monday night playoff game. Come on, give me a break. Give me a break. We will talk plenty about the playoffs, though, coming up here in just a second. We'll also go around the NFL with Matt Verderame in the 3 o'clock hour. Plus, National Championship tonight. We'll get our full game preview coming up in the 5 o'clock hour.
The betting line is flying today.
Is it?
It's up to Michigan -6 at Circa Sports in Las Vegas as of 10 minutes ago.
I am going to take a guess. I do not know this for sure. I am just taking a guess. I am assuming there is some information floating around in Vegas or in betting circles about the availability of Dylan Johnson, if I had to guess.
That's an interesting thought. I also think that this is very much a matchup where the public really likes Washington, and the sharp money really likes Michigan.
Where's the total on that game right now?
55.5 last I looked. Judging by this screenshot, it is still 55.5 at Circus.
All right, I got to jump on that. It was 56.5 last night, and I fell asleep before putting the under.
Just went back down to -5, by the way.
That's wild. That is crazy.
Yeah.
That much action makes me think a lot of the pros think this is going to be a really good game, and I think it will be too. So we'll get to our preview later in the show, but is this going to be the final time we see Jim Harbaugh coaching a college football team? We're going to get to that coming up in a little bit as well. Plus your texts, 785-272-9429, and we will get to your comments on the YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our channel. Just search for 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. That is the best way to go find us. And go subscribe to the YouTube, and you can find all of our great video content. Dan's recap from Saturday, the Wildcats instant reaction from K-State over UCF. We'll talk about that game in the 4 o'clock hour today. Our Chiefs instant reaction show as well. That's featured on the channel right now. So again, go search 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. 7 games in the opening weekend of the NFL playoffs. 2 on Saturday. They're both going to be on either NBC or Peacock. 3 on Sunday, CBS, NBC, NBC. Wait, CBS, Fox, NBC, excuse me. And then the ESPN game on Monday night.
This is such a weird quirk, and I don't remember this ever happening before. We haven't had too many super wild card weekends before. But this is such a weird quirk of the schedule that the AFC games will all be done before an NFC game starts.
Yeah, that's weird.
You have 2 AFC games Saturday, and the early AFC game on Sunday is Steelers-Bills. The early game is Steelers-Bills. So all 3 AFC games will be done before a single NFC game is played.
I don't remember that happening either. That is very strange. I'm still not comfortable with games between 2 NFC teams on CBS or vice versa. 2 AFC teams on Fox. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Raiders-Broncos was on Fox, and Packers-Bears was on CBS yesterday, and that was an affront to God.
It was wrong. It should not ever be like that.
And I know people who are a little older than me are going to come in with, well, CBS used to have all the NFC games. I remember. I was alive for that. I remember Summerall and Madden on CBS when I was a little kid, just starting to watch football. There is an era of sports broadcasting that can be described as before Fox and after Fox. And we have been in after Fox for a very, very long time, and Fox has the NFC games, damn it.
Here's the thing. I don't remember that because I literally was not alive.
No, yeah, you don't. It's got to be especially weird for people younger, but like I do. I have faint memories of CBS having the big NFC games, having like the Washington Detroit NFC Championship game, and I think it was 91, whatever year it was. Washington won the Super Bowl last 91, I think. Like I do faintly remember that. I remember the theme music, the whole thing. They had great theme music. That would be an entire hour of the show someday, would be just talking about who had the best television theme music in the history of sports television.
That would be a good topic.
I guarantee we could do an hour with no commercials.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very passionate about this.
We easily could.
The early 90s CBS, like, orchestral theme music was the best. They should bring that back. They should bring it back very strongly.
I was born on September 2nd. Week 1 of the 1994 season, the first one on Fox, was September 4th of 1994. So I literally have never been alive when CBS had the NFC package. So no, I am going to stand with this. You should not have Bears-Packers on CBS. It is wrong, and it is evil.
CBS was out of the game when you were born. NBC had the AFC package.
That's right. CBS gets...
NBC had Dick Enberg doing the big games. Man,
I love Dick Enberg.
Those were the days.
R.I.P. to an all-time great.
Things doesn't matter how old you are. Things were perfect when you were 10.
Yes, no, that's correct.
Like the networks that the games were on, the logos and uniforms that the teams wore, the conferences or leagues that the teams were in. Everything was perfect when you were 10, and it just got worse.
Yes, no,
that gets progressively worse.
That is correct. The other thing too, while I'm used to Sunday Night Football being on NBC. That feels very natural to me. When Monday Night Football is on ESPN, which it has been since 2006, we're going on almost 20 years of this. I still think, where are Mike Patrick and Paul McGuire and Joe Theismann? They should be doing a kind of crappy Sunday night game, probably with bad weather. It's going to be cold outside right after prime time, and I'm going to have Mike Patrick fumbling through the entire game. Where are these days? Bring them back.
Yeah, when they only had half the schedule because TNT had the other half of the Sunday night schedule.
That's so funny. Is Paul McGuire still alive?
I don't know that he is.
He
actually. Is he? That's
85
great.
Years old.
Wonderful. I'm so glad.
Good for Paul McGuire.
Yeah.
Bring him back.
I agree. Bring Paul McGuire back.
Mike Patrick, Paul McGuire, and Joe Theismann. Yeah. That was Sunday Night Football. Led into my prime time.
Yeah.
It was better back then.
Return.
Bring it back. Bring back the good old days. You never know that it was the good old days until they're gone.
Yeah.
You learn that the older you get, more and more that stays true. All right. The actual football this weekend. Okay.
And we want to hear from you on this topic, by the way, folks. If you let us know in the YouTube comments, if you're watching along on YouTube, the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, or you hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429. Which playoff game, aside from the Chiefs, assuming that you have some degree of excitement to watch the Chiefs play in the playoffs, what playoff game are you most excited for? And if you want, tell us why. Because there are, I think, varying interest levels, varying storylines that go into all 6 of these playoff games. I think it's a fascinating weekend of playoff football by and large. And I want to know which ones you are most excited to watch. So hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429.
All right, let's start right at the top. Most exciting game of Super Wild Card Weekend is what?
It's Packers-Cowboys, and it's because it scratches a particular itch for me.
Like Speaking of the good old days?
Yes, we just talked about things were perfect when you were 10 years old. Well, when I was 10 years old, Packers-Cowboys meant a lot.
Yeah.
And so watching these two teams play in the playoffs again, because what's it been? The Dez caught it game was the last time, wouldn't it have been?
No, 2016, Jared Cook.
Oh, that's right.
Jared Cook sideline catch.
That's right. So, yeah, they had a couple of meetings in the 2010s. And, of course, in the 90s, some
every year
great playoff battles between those two franchises. There's just something about Packers-Cowboys. And, I mean, the Packers come in playing great football, and Jordan Love comes in particular playing great football. And this is a Dallas team whose bona fides are, I think, fairly questioned. But one thing has been consistent for Dallas. They are awesome at AT&T Stadium. So can Green Bay come in and can they make it a game? I think this is going to be a very high-scoring football game, very entertaining football game between two offenses that are really operating at a high level right now.
It's also got the great storyline, and it would be a little different if it was the Cowboys going to Lambeau, but this will be Mike McCarthy versus the Packers for, I believe, the first time.
Oh, that is interesting.
I believe it is.
A Mike McCarthy revenge game.
Well, maybe not. No, they've played once before. They must have played once before because it's been 4 years since he took over, 20 through now. So, but you get the Mike McCarthy versus the Packers thing, even though very few players he coached are still on the team these days. That's interesting. I think that game's got the highest variance of what could be a great game or an awful game, because if you get a shootout, you're going to get the best game of the weekend for sure. You also run into the possibility that Joe Barry's devil magic with the Packers defense the last 3 weeks completely runs out and the Cowboys score 56 points and the Packers do not, because the Cowboys actually play defense.
We talk about teams that have like one very specific route to victory, and if you take them out of plan A, their plan B looks a little bit shaky. Like the Dolphins, I think, are a prime example of this. The 49ers, except nobody's really been good enough to knock them off of plan A all year long. Like, we don't really know how they look when they go behind. Only one team did it to them, and it didn't look good.
Nope.
So the 49ers are an example of that. I think the Cowboys are an example of that too, because if you get behind on Dallas and you've got to throw the ball, they just set that pass rush loose on you and create havoc, and they create turnovers. Deron Bland had like 38 interceptions this season and took them all back for touchdowns. Like they've got a formula, but if you can get a lead on them and you can, establish that run game a little bit and keep their pass rush from making such a big impact, can they get enough stops? So I think it's a really interesting game in that capacity. The other thing too is the Cowboys are kind of a team now. They get into the playoffs. If they get behind, or if they're in a tight one at halftime, do they tighten up a little bit? Do they think, oh boy, here we go again? Does that
are we going to get late game Dak?
We get late game Mike McCarthy?
Licking my chops for that. I have that game second on my list because, again, I think it's got great thriller potential. I do think, though, if things go south for Green Bay defensively, things tend to go really south, and I just have some worries about that Cowboy offense lighting them up. The other thing, though, that helps Green Bay, Dallas is much worse against the run. Aaron Jones has gone over 100 yards 3 weeks in a row. He's playing his best football since 2019, maybe. He's been phenomenal. So I think that's going to be a pretty good game in all likelihood. I think the Cowboys are favored, and they deserve to be for sure. I'm going with Rams-Lions as my number one, though, because I think that is, of all of these teams, at least on paper, the most evenly matched game. And you have so many good storylines. You get Matthew Stafford obviously going back to Detroit, and they were saying this is a Matthew Stafford revenge game. Why? This worked out perfectly for Matt Stafford.
You say the same thing about Jared Goff, right? Like,
yeah. But at least
both
Goff,
parties got what they wanted out of that particular exchange.
At least Goff can kind of play and not that he necessarily is, but like they gave up on me. Lions didn't give up on Matt Stafford. They said, hey man, we're going nowhere, and
right.
for your sake, we're gonna move on and we'll all reset. I mean, it's worked out it has worked out for everyone, but Stafford's had a really good year, better than I expected him to be this year. You've got the star power that has emerged out of nowhere in Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua is their number one now. Cooper Kupp had a little bit of a down year. He's been banged up. But you've got that Rams team that's playing good football. They found their running back one in Kyron Williams. Their offensive line's played well. They've still got a solid defense. The Lions are, the darling team of the NFL this year. So I think that's a really evenly matched game. And I'm excited to see Dan Campbell's 150 miles an hour around a sharp curve offense on fourth downs in a playoff setting. I'm interested to see, are they going to dance with the girl who brought them? And I think the answer is yes. And I'm excited to see that in a do or die environment. So that's my number one. Packers Cowboys would come in at number two.
Rams Lions is my number two, because I think that's going to be a track meet. I'm a little surprised the over under in that game is only 51.5. I could see a lot of points in that game. It's indoors. Both teams can really score it. Both teams, like, Raheem Morris deserves a lot of credit for what he's done with the Rams defense, but they're still a little bit suspect. They don't have stars, other than Aaron Donald. I could see that game being back and forth, points explosion all game. I think that one is going to be a lot of fun. So we're in agreement on the top two. We just order them a little different.
Middle of the pack. This is, I think, where it gets really interesting. I am going to go next. I'm going Browns-Texans next.
Interesting.
I want to see now CJ Stroud. Super excited to watch him. That Browns defense is sickening. They are so good. And Jim Schwartz against a rookie quarterback, I am really excited to watch that unfold in a playoff scenario. Flacco back in the mix. We got playoff Joe Flacco again. I thought it was gone forever. But we're going to see him throwing, a 50-yard route, 40 yards or pass interference all game long. I just think that's such an interesting matchup, the way those two teams got to the playoffs. It's a matchup that I don't think Cleveland wanted to end up getting. I think Cleveland would have much rather played Jacksonville in this game than Houston. And I'm just excited to see Stroud in a playoff game. So I would put that one third.
Yeah. Mark in the YouTube comment says that's what his most interesting playoff game is. Want to see how Houston does with a rookie quarterback and head coach. I have that one ranked 6 out of 6. And not that I don't think it's going to be good. Somebody has to be 6th. And this is one where there's no history with these franchises. There's not a lot of narrative. Every year there's that game. It's like, wow, this is a playoff game. And this is this is a playoff matchup of the year by far. Okay. They've played well. They both deserve to be here. It's not as though I'm looking at these two teams saying, well, how the hell did they get in the playoffs? Like, Houston played well down the stretch and stole a division title. Cleveland has just pummeled teams defensively. They have dealt with the swinging door, revolving door at quarterback, and lost their best offensive player in week 2. And they've gotten it done. They've made it happen. Won 11 games, and they're deserving. It's the matchup that feels least like a playoff game of the 6 to me. So that's why I have to downgrade it. I have Dolphins Chiefs 3rd for me, just because so many questions about how this Chiefs team is going to respond. Can they flip a switch and get back to another deep playoff run? And can the Dolphins beat the soft allegations? Can they beat the fraud allegations in a cold weather scenario that has not historically been very kind to them as a franchise? I think those are really fascinating elements to that matchup for me. So that's how I have it 3rd.
I have that one 6th. I'm just like you, very confident in the Chiefs. And I know that has often been a death knell for this Kansas City Chiefs franchise in the last couple of years, but the Dolphins are just so beat up. Their vibes are awful going into the playoffs. They are limping in quite literally to the postseason. And I think the Chiefs are going to handle them. I really do. So I've got the Chiefs game actually 6 out of 6. Again, it could be a really good game. I think that's certainly possible. All these games have that potential. I'm excited to watch the Chiefs. I just don't think it's going to be like an all-time great matchup. So next for me, 4th out of 6, I'm going with Eagles Buccaneers there. The Eagles are a better team than the Bucs. I think they've got, as much as I don't like Nick Sirianni, I think they're a better coach team because I think Todd Bowles is a terrible head coach. But you're giving me Baker Mayfield with a chip on his shoulder? Everyone's saying you're the worst team in the NFC to make the playoffs. He's all PO'd. He's trying to fight to be next year's quarterback for the Buccaneers as well. They're probably kind of playing with house money because they are the worst team that made the playoffs in the NFC. I think they can get the Eagles. I really do. I think that game has legit upset potential, even if the Eagles are the better team. Have to see how Hurts is doing health-wise. I don't think the Bucs will win, but I think they've got a real chance to, so I would put that one next.
It does sort of feel like the Eagles kind of put a roll of stamps on 2023 with their performance against the Giants. Can they rise up? Can they show some pride as a defending conference champion in a scenario where, man for man, they're the more talented team, but they have to go on the road, and it just vibes are at an all-time low for that team. I don't know if Sirianni can rescue it. I think the Eagles are gettable, and the Buccaneers just might have the right combination of defensive prowess. They got really good defensive backfield. Antoine Winfield is an eraser and can really make an impact on this game and limit the opportunities for A.J. Brown if he's good to go, and Devontae Smith. I think it's a matchup that the Buccaneers can absolutely win. I do have that one 4th as well, followed then by Bills Steelers, which is a game where you have no idea what you're going to get from the Buffalo Bills. From a play-to-play basis, you just don't know. By all accounts, if you just look at the box score from last night's game, they should have beaten the Dolphins by 3 touchdowns. That should have been a massacre. The Bills did whatever they wanted between the 20s for a bulk of that game. I didn't run the ball great. Leonard Fournette, really? That's a thing?
Yeah.
We're still trying to make
Playoff Lenny
happen in the year of our Lord 2024. Yeah. Really? That's a thing. So like their running game isn't great, but like Josh Allen would look great one play and then like a clown doofus the very next. Just the quintessential. They messed up a 4th and 1 quarterback sneak with Josh Allen as their quarterback. They managed to twice, in fact, mess up a 1 yard to go situation on a pivotal down with Josh Allen, which is like unthinkable when your quarterback is built like that. So I have no idea what to expect with the Bills. Like, at their best, good as anybody. At their worst, they give up a big play here or they turn it over there, and the Steelers, they force turnovers. They're going to really miss TJ Watt. Like, I would almost I might lean Steelers if I thought TJ Watt was going to play, but he's not going to play.
In their last 11 games without TJ Watt, they are 1-10.
Yeah, that's just a killer and really disappointing but they've run the ball better, and they've found the big play in their passing game with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. They're dangerous. I don't think it's going to be a walkover for the Bills, but I do expect the Bills to win. Like, I'm kind of in the same boat where I feel pretty confident in the Chiefs winning. I feel about as confident in the Bills winning.
I think it's going to be a close game in Bills-Steelers because every Bills game is. I mean, right now, they are a team that is not going to blow you out until they prove, once again, that they are able to do it. We will talk more NFL coming up at the bottom of the hour with Matt Verderame. First, though, on the other side of this break, is tonight the final game as a college head coach for Jim Harbaugh. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. Before we get to Matt Verderame to go around the NFL here on 580 Sports Talk, the national championship game is tonight, Washington versus Michigan. One undefeated will remain following this contest. We'll preview the game in the 5 o'clock hour in full, but it's the talk of the town. It's Black Monday in the NFL. Coaches getting fired all over. We'll break that down coming up next hour as well. Will one of those vacancies be filled by Jim Harbaugh?
Every year I think Michigan's going to come up with a contract to keep it at Michigan for a long time, and then every year there's more and more smoke around. Oh well, he's going to take a job somewhere else. He is going to leave, and then I say, okay, yeah, I guess he's leaving, and then he doesn't. It's much different this year though, because the NCAA and the Big Ten are both like breathing down Jim Harbaugh's neck. And this might be the time if he wants to get back to the NFL, try to win a Super Bowl, which, I mean, that'd be the one thing on his plate. Like if they win tonight, I think it's definite he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
They lose tonight, maybe not. Like the idea was to restore Michigan to its glory under his old coach, Bo Schembechler. Jim Harbaugh has done that.
Mm-hmm.
Get back in the rivalry with Ohio State. They've done that. Win the Big Ten. They've done that 3 straight years. Like he's accomplished everything there is to accomplish in the college game, except win the last game.
Yeah.
And if he does that tonight, I think he's out.
If Michigan wins tonight, I think 100% he is leaving. I think it's going to happen regardless. And I think that, to me, and if I'm reading too much into this, that's fair enough. But I feel like the way he has addressed this whole thing, it just feels like when coaches or players or just personnel know that they're moving on to something else. And he's always been very pro athlete and help it, the players deserve better and I want them to get paid and I want those kind of things. The fact that he has been so vocal about that in the past week with the NCAA breathing down his neck and the flippancy with, even by head coaching standards, he has approached all the questions about, are you going to leave Michigan after this year? I know I've said this, I think 2, if not 3 years in a row. I do believe this is it, though. I do think this is going to be it for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, because what? You want to deal with that? Like all these things you're preaching that you want, it's going to get hung up in the courts at least for a while.
Mm-hmm.
The NCAA itself doesn't want that. They're going to try to come and hammer you. You want to deal with that? Like Jim Harbaugh's not young. You want to do that, or you want to go play general manager and head coach in the NFL?
Well, the good news for Michigan is they've got a replacement lined up, somebody who wrote a 600-page manifesto about what he would do if he was the head coach of Michigan, and currently unemployed. So I think it'd be very easy to hire him.
If Harbaugh does leave, it's Sharon Moore who takes the job, right?
I think if they promote from within, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's a dangerous thing to do sometimes, is promote from within.
Mm-hmm.
But if they promote from within, it's absolute. Well, I don't know, because Jesse Minter is the defensive coordinator. Might be the guy you say,
maybe.
Hey, let's have him run the show, because it's gonna be harder to keep him than it is to keep Sharon Moore. Maybe, I don't know.
I think that is possible, and I would be totally. If I'm Michigan, I'm fine with that idea, because I think what Jesse Minter has done with that defense is harder to do than what Sharon Moore has done with their offense. I really do. We again will break down the national championship game in full coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Right now, though, on the other side of this timeout, we go around the NFL with Matt Verderame. He's joining us next on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline to break down Week 18 and to look ahead to Super Wildcard Weekend is Matt Verderame. He covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com, and he joins us at this time every Monday to talk all things NFL. Matt, how jacked up are you for Super Wildcard Weekend?
I'm jacked up for Wildcard Weekend. Super Wildcard Weekend's a disgrace, but I am very much looking forward to the playoffs. My favorite part of this, with all due respect to the 18 teams that didn't make the playoffs, is that they're home and they're done, and I don't have to write about them again until August. So I'm excited about that.
We just, at the top of the hour, broke down 1 through 6, the games we were most and least excited about this weekend. So for you, looking at the schedule, Matt, which wild card round matchup are you most excited for, and which one do you have the least juice for?
I would say I'm most excited for the Lions and the Rams in terms of just, I think it's the best game of the weekend. I think that's the game that's most competitive. I think that's the game that I really could see going either way, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. As far as, and plus you have the Stafford factor, Goff. I mean, it's everything. It's a very interesting game. As far as the least juice, I think it's got to be the Eagles and the Bucks. I just don't care. The Bucks aren't any good. The Eagles are a disaster. I mean, I can't believe how far they've fallen. It just does nothing for me. The Cleveland-Houston game, I think, is also competitive. I think that's an interesting game. I don't know how much juice there is to it. I mean, you knew the second that matchup was the matchup. You knew it was like, oh, Saturday at 4:30. Of course, you knew that was going to be that game. But yeah, I think it's overall a pretty good slate of games.
That Eagles game, let's get to that. We'll get to the Chiefs here in just a moment and their matchup with the Miami Dolphins. I understand that they knew the writing was on the wall and the Cowboys were going to beat the Commanders and the Eagles were going to end up with the 5 seed. I know that was obvious. But man, for a guy who talks a big game like Nick Sirianni, for his team and for him to quite literally quit and to just pull everyone and to say, whatever, we're punting on the second half, that rubbed me the wrong way, even if I understand the reality of the situation. Was that a bad look to you?
Yeah, I actually, look, I don't think it's indefensible by any means, but it was a look of like, we suck. Honestly, that's what the look was. Like, we're not any good. I don't believe in you guys. We're yanking you out of the game. And maybe that lights a fire under the team. Maybe they take it and they say, hey, look, he's right. Or they look at it and they're like, you don't believe in us? Okay, cool, man. That's great. Well, the season's about to end in 8 days. So, thanks for the vote of confidence. I will say, though, not so much defend Sirianni, but just to look at it pragmatically, that is one of the biggest tire fires I've ever seen in my life from a good football team. Like that, the last month and a half, they can't do anything. They can't defend anybody. It is staggering how bad they are defensively. And you watch the game, they don't even try to tackle people. I mean, it is jarring watching Philadelphia. And that speaks to a bigger question, and a question I plan on trying to have with, a talk with people around the league. Like, is there something going on that's deeper than this? Because that's a proud team. That's a team that was within a whisker of winning the Super Bowl last year. That is a talented football team. You've got guys out there just making business decisions. I mean, you turn on their tape, it's deplorable how bad some of those guys are. So, is there something going on deeper than that? Is it the whole defensive staff's got to go? Is there something going on with Sirianni? I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing, but it's ugly what's going on in Philadelphia.
I think we're all pretty certain the Buccaneers are not going to win the Super Bowl this year, but it's a good season and what was kind of a rebuilding year for them with all the, who knows what Mike Evans' future is going to look like. I'm not a Todd Bowles fan at all. I do like Baker Mayfield, and he had a decent season. Do you feel like by leading this team to a division title, Baker Mayfield has earned the starting job next year for Tampa?
Yeah, I do. I think if I'm Tampa, I'm probably tagging him. Maybe I'm giving him like a Geno Smith-esque contract where it's 2 or 3 years, but it's really kind of year by year. I'm not giving him a fortune, but yeah, Baker deserves to get another year. That team was expected to be a disaster, and they're 9-8 in the playoffs. And I get it. You can sit there and say, well, the division's not good. They played the AFC South. Okay, sure. They still made the playoffs at 9-8. They were a lot better than people thought. I do think he deserves another year there, and I'm with you. I don't think the bowl situation is perfect. I thought Canales came in as the OC, did a nice job. But Baker earned another season, and if he can back that up, then maybe you start talking about a bigger deal. But yeah, for now, I do think if you're the Buccaneers, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Baker Mayfield in 2024.
Our guest is Matt Verderame, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, joining us to talk NFL football as he does every Monday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt's outstanding work appears at Sports Illustrated at si.com, and you can check him out on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, let's talk about the Chiefs. They obviously didn't give us much to talk about as far as their game yesterday. They played their backups. They beat a Charger team that was loaded with backups as well. A big preseason energy to that particular Week 18 game. But the Chiefs won it. You'd always rather go into the postseason on a winning note than a losing note. And they accomplished that with their 13-12 win. Given that, and given the fact that they beat the Bengals the week before, does it feel a little bit like the Chiefs were able to push a bit of a reset button going into the playoffs, that they had an opportunity because of the win over the Bengals to rest some guys, get fresh, and maybe just push a reset button that they needed to push after a difficult regular season?
A little bit. I think it's fair. Look, I'll tell you, watching that game, watching Chris Jones play 2.5 quarters, I know more than a few Chiefs fans, including my father, were catatonic every time he was out there in just deep fear. In fact, one fan who will remain nameless was screaming in my ear, "Get him out of the game. Give him the money." Thankfully, worked out for the Chiefs. But in any event, you know what? Look, I think if you're the Chiefs, defensively, you've been great all year. You're good there. Offensively, even though you had to kick a bunch of field goals against the Bengals, you moved the ball. You got chunk plays. You didn't take any pre-snap penalties. You executed largely in the way you wanted to. But more importantly to me, and this is just, I don't know, one of those little observations, you take it or leave it, the last couple of weeks, including the Chargers game, and you saw it actually when Jones got his sack, they're playing with some joy they have not played with, in my opinion, all year long. They have at times looked almost rote on the sideline. They have looked very just down and dour and not invested. And the last couple of weeks, to me, is really the first time this year where they have looked like them, where they've been excited and they've been jumping around and they've had some positivity going. That's a big deal as they go into a game against the Dolphins, who, as they're holding their presser right now down in Miami, are just besieged by injuries. They just lost 3 other guys for next week. So this is a game where the Chiefs really look. They're favored. They ought to be. The Chiefs have everything lining up for them this week, and they've got to be able to kick down the door and take advantage of it.
You mentioned the Dolphins having their press conference right now. They have announced Andrew Van Ginkel is out. They have announced that Cameron Good is out. Their defensive end, their pass rush depth chart right now is Emmanuel Ogbah and a giant question mark. They might call Cameron Wake. They might call Jason Taylor.
I bet Cam Wake could still go, though.
They might call Trace Armstrong. They might call Vern Denherter. Like they really might call anybody with ambulatory to try and get after the quarterback. Does this feel like the best possible matchup for the Chiefs offense in that sense because the Dolphins pass rush has been so beaten up?
Yeah, probably. I mean, look, if you're the Chiefs and you can't put it on Miami, you ought to give up. I mean, let's just be honest. Let's just call it what it is and not beat around the bush. The Dolphins at this point are so injured. And I get it. Like, the expectation is Mostert and Waddle. They're going to play. Xavier Howard may or may not play. That's a little bit more murky. And let's just, come on. I mean, they're not going to be 100% in this game. I mean, even if they play, these guys are nowhere near 100%. Tyreek Hill's been in a walking boot the last couple of weeks when he's not on the field. He clearly is not 100% if you watched the game last night. They're missing their starting center. They're missing Chubb. They're missing Van Ginkel. They're missing Jalen Phillips. Devon Holland's playing with 2 bad MCLs. I mean, they are to a point. Jerome Baker, who's one of their starting linebackers, he's out for the season, which was announced a couple minutes ago. They are so unbelievably beat up in this game. And not only are they beat up, they've got to go play the Chiefs on a night in Kansas City when it's going to feel like Antarctica. And so, and they've got to go in there and play that game. The Dolphins under Tua have won one game when it's under 50 degrees. That was against Tim Boyle and the Jets. Okay. I just look at this game and say, if you're the Chiefs and you can't beat Miami and beat them pretty soundly, you probably don't have a whole hell of a lot of hope moving forward. That is a game that is lining up in every possible way for the Chiefs.
Let's look at the other AFC wildcard weekend matchups. The Bills win the AFC East and snare the 2 seed, winning football down the stretch. Not always the prettiest football, but it was winning football, which stands in stark contrast to the football they were playing for the bulk of the season. Now they play the Steelers, who have made the playoffs, and they're going to be without TJ Watt, and the record without Watt for the Steelers in recent years is not pretty. Do the Steelers have any kind of chance in that game, or should this be all Bills?
It should be all Bills. That also is the case when they played Easton Stick a couple weeks ago, and it took to the last 30 seconds to win that game. It also took to the last couple of minutes with Bailey Zappi, who had 3 interceptions, including a pick six and a fumble in the first 20 minutes of that game. And the Pats had a shot to win in the fourth quarter. Look, I think the Bills roll Pittsburgh. If you said to me, what is the game you have the most confidence in the outcome? It's that game. Although I will say, Kansas City is right behind them. I think we're going to get Kansas City at Buffalo in the divisional round, which is going to feel like the siege when those two teams get together. But Buffalo, one thing that would scare me about the Bills in this game, they have a tendency to just let teams hang around. They make mistakes. They turn the ball over. They don't convert when they should. If Pittsburgh has a shot late in that game, it's the playoffs. It's Game 7. You are one mistake away from costing yourselves. And I think the Bills win going away, but Buffalo has had, for years now, not just this year, a long-standing history of just, they will leave you in, they play with their food, and Tomlin is a great coach. I mean, if there's ever a team you look at and go, could they find some weird, scrappy way? Yeah. I don't think they do, though. I think Buffalo probably wins pretty big.
Houston and Cleveland is the other AFC matchup. How do you see this game unfolding?
You know, I think of all the AFC games, this is definitely the most competitive one. This is the one that I think you could really make a case either way, and you're not going to get laughed out of conversation. Houston, I think, is the lesser of the two teams in terms of completeness. The Browns are a better overall football team. Both teams were really beat up. They're injured. The question I have in this one is two-pronged. One, when Houston's got the ball, can anybody other than Nico Collins make the Browns pay? Because unlike Indianapolis, I think the Browns are going to do a pretty good job defending him. Number two, when the Browns have the ball, can Flacco stop throwing interceptions? Like, the story of Flacco has been great and fun. He's also thrown like 10 interceptions in 5 games. And that's cute, and it doesn't matter, and it's a fun little anecdote when you're playing the Bears and Jets. If he gives Stroud multiple possessions in this game, they're probably going to win. I like Cleveland. Cleveland's a little bit more of an experienced team. Obviously, Flacco's been there and done this, and he's having one of those magic carpet rides. I'm not a big destiny guy. I don't really believe in that in sports, but I do think almost feels a little written in the stars, like he's going to go to Baltimore and play that game. But I think in the end, just looking at it practically, the Browns are more equipped to stop Houston than the other way. Houston has given up a lot of big chunk plays this year, and Cleveland has lived off of those with Flacco. So I like the Browns in a one-score game, but I would, of all the games in the AFC, it's easily the one that I could see going either way.
Finishing things up with Matt Verderame, who covers the NFL for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. He joins us every Monday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk to break down the National Football League. And, of course, you can go find him on Twitter as well, where his handle is at Matt Verderame. From the NFC, Matt, the Packers, obviously not just for me, but a great story in general. Jordan Love's ascendance this year, incredibly impressive. They get to take on the Dallas Cowboys. And while Dallas is flawed, they are also the deserving favorites in this matchup, especially at home where they've been almost automatic this year. What kind of chance do you give Green Bay both to keep this a close game and to win outright?
A real one. I absolutely think Green Bay can win the game because I think Love we might look back in a year from now and go, well, Jordan Love's just a better quarterback. And I'm not a Dak doubter. I don't dislike the guy. I actually think he gets underrated sometimes. Jordan Love is really good. I spent a lot of time in Green Bay. Sure, I was up there for OTAs. I was up there for camp. I covered a couple of games up there. And, I sat down and spoke with him one-on-one at length for a feature I did in the beginning of the year. He is a really impressive guy. And they believe in him. I remember that was my big takeaway walking out of there in the summer. They really do believe in this kid. There is a palpable, hey, he's good. You're going to see that he's good. And he is. He's very good. Do I think Dallas finds a way? Probably. But I got to tell you, this would not be a shocker in my eyes if Green Bay went up there and beat him. Or down there and beat him, I should say. I really do think the Packers can hang around. I think it's probably something like 30-24, but I wouldn't be shocked. I think the Packers have a real chance in that game to pull an upset.
Outside of the playoffs, when it comes to NFL news, it's Black Monday. Obviously a tough day around the league with guys, lots of guys, in fact, when you include assistants, losing their jobs, and it's hard to, focus on all those negatives. But I think a couple moves that are not surprising to anyone. Arthur Smith, 3 years of 7-10. He's done in Atlanta. I imagine he'll be an OC somewhere next year. Ron Rivera let go in Washington today after a few years there trying to right the ship. Do you think this is it for Ron Rivera coaching in the NFL?
Could be. Could be. I mean, really, if you look at Ron Rivera's track record, outside of the year where he went to the Super Bowl with Carolina, he has really not had much success. I mean, I believe other than that year, he's either been 500 or had a losing record every year of his career. I'm pretty sure. It's not been good. So I think so. And I'll tell you what about Washington, and this is something they haven't said in 25 years. That's a really good job right now. That's a really good job because new ownership, Daniel Snyder's out. Harris is in. Harris owns the 76ers. He owns the Devils. Those are winning organizations, and he spends a lot of money. Like they are, he wants to win. That guy is all in everywhere he's been. That's a team now that has a second overall pick. You're going to get Williams or May. You're getting one of them because you're not keeping Sam Howell. That ship has sailed. So you're going to have a top flight quarterback. Got a pretty good cap sheet. You've got an owner that wants to win. You've got an owner who's invested in winning, and you look at that team all of a sudden and go, hey, you know what? It's not bad. Like, that's a pretty darn good job. I like that job way better than the Raiders job, than the Chargers job, God knows, than the Panthers job. Like, that's a really nice job out in D.C.
My favorite Ron Rivera fact, there have been 3 teams that have made the playoffs with a losing record. Ron Rivera was the head coach for 2 of them. My personal favorite Ron Rivera.
Man's looking right.
Yeah. Hey, if you get to keep the job, nothing wrong with that. Matt Verderame covers the NFL for SI.com and for Sports Illustrated. Go check out his great work. He joins us every Monday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Matt, we appreciate it. Enjoy the football this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
That's Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. Awesome insight into everything going on around the NFL. Halfway done on 580 Sports Talk. We're back with the 4 o'clock hour right after this. on 580 Sports Talk. It is a victory Monday following a Kansas City Chiefs win over the Los Angeles Chargers. But more importantly, the playoffs are upon us. They begin on Saturday. We're breaking the playoffs down even more coming up a little bit later on. Plus, talked about it with Matt Verderame a moment ago, but it is Black Monday. It's a tough day around the NFL, and I think it is very easy. And I think people in general have become more sympathetic to times when coaches get fired or when there are mass firings in sports. So like, hey, these are people. They've got families. Their assistants are all losing their jobs in all likelihood too. Like, there's some sympathy to it, but it is also a major part of the NFL calendar. Multiple teams now looking for head coaches. So we'll get to some of the big storylines there coming up in just a little bit. Also this hour, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You, our first one of the week. We'll talk some college hoops here in just a second, plus your texts on the text line 785-272-9429. And you can hit us up on YouTube, our YouTube channel, of course, called 580 Sports Talk. We would be honored if you would go and subscribe to us while you check us out on YouTube as well. We'll break down the College Football Playoff National Championship next hour. I got to be honest with you, though, and you've heard me say this all season. I think Michigan's the best team in the country. I think they've been the best team in the country. I think it would be very cool if someone from my hometown was the winning quarterback of a national championship winning team. That's J.J. McCarthy of the Michigan Wolverines. But I've been following Dubs, the Husky, on Twitter the last couple days.
A very good dog.
I would go beyond that. It might be my new favorite live mascot. I've always been a fan from afar, but I got to be honest, Dubs, I was not familiar with your game. Every picture is a banger. He was hanging out with Kirk Herbstreit's dog today, Ben Herbstreit. They took a picture on two like big chairs next to each other.
Oh, that's great.
He was getting blown dry, I guess, in some pictures. That video of him packing a suitcase, it was amazing. I went through like 3 years of tweets the other night.
Yeah, they do really good dog content with Dubs. I remember when he was just a puppy before he was officially crowned the new mascot. There was some really great like puppy Dubs content, like getting used to the stadium, and like Husky puppies are so funny. Like there's just proportions so funny, and the giant paws and this absolutely adorable. So yeah, that's one of the best. Like I'm in the tank for Ralphie. Ralphie always be number one. Although I will say the current iteration of Ralphie doesn't like to run, which is kind of Ralphie's like whole deal.
Yeah.
And they found a Ralphie who not really into running, which I mean, fair. Neither am I, like, for instance, but it's also like not my job.
The lackadaisical bison.
Yes. Like Ralphie's just kind of, I'll give you 20 yards and then I would like to go back to my crate, please. She's not tearing down the entire sideline and shoulder like I remember, like the Ralphies of my youth. But no, Dubs is top notch, and I hope that if Washington does win, they give the dog the trophy.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope they put the dog in. Well, he's a little too big to sit in the trophy.
Yeah, there's nowhere to sit in the trophy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And let him climb on it. That'd be fine.
Let him pose with the crystal football.
Bring the crystal football back, first of all. That was such a good trophy. All the live dog mascots are good, though. You've got Miss Rev at Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. She's great. She runs. I love Butler Blue. Mm-hmm. He's got a car. They've got a little remote control car they drive him around in. It's awesome.
Smokey at UT is great.
Yeah.
Handsome Dan at Yale.
Yeah, Handsome Dan. Ugga.
I have so many of these dogs on T-shirts from Home Field Apparel.
Ugga
kind of my
is
thing.
Currently they're great shirts. They really, you do have the Handsome Dan shirt. That one's very fitting though.
Yes.
Ugga is currently at the bottom of my power rankings, not because Ugga's a bad dog. Ugga just hasn't bit anyone recently. When that happens, like if a Tennessee player just gets too close and Ugga, brings out the chompers, right back to the top. Right immediately to number one. Don't mess with the dog.
We need more live mascots.
No, we do. K-State, go find a Wildcat. Yeah, I know you tried in the past. Go find a Wildcat. Bring it out. Then you can maybe get a new recording of the because the current one is bad, man.
Keep an ocelot like in the corner somewhere.
You got one of the best veterinary schools in the country. You can take care of that animal.
Yes, you give it a great life.
Jayhawk, you're not bringing a blue jay into Allen Fieldhouse and letting it fly around. Like that's
no.
You already have birds flying around in there.
There are some schools it works, and there are some schools it doesn't.
Yeah, more like Cam the Ram, my friend at Colorado State. Love Cam the Ram.
Sure.
Both the live mascot and the costumed mascot at Colorado State are both named Cam.
Yes.
Which is
Creates
lacking
confusion.
a little creativity.
Yeah.
No, live mascots are great. All the SEC schools have live tigers. The tiger schools, anyway. Like LSU's got the whole big tiger cage. We need more of them.
Me big elephant at Alabama games.
Yeah, I'd be all about that.
Just looming in the corner of one of the end zones at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Stampy. Just chilling out. Get him a jersey that fits.
It'd be awesome. Be great. Get a pygmy elephant. You know, you need a little less space. More live mascots are the best. But I'm not gonna lie, the pictures of Dubs are making me reconsider my pick for this game. I'm trending more toward Washington
Sympathetic toward the good dog. I understand. I totally understand.
Speaking of college sports, college hoops this weekend. Let's start with KU.
Yeah, let's get here because people feel a type of way about how that game ended.
And I get it. First of all, before we get to the flagrant foul, that's a good win for KU. I think TCU is a better team than they're getting credit for. We talked about that on the show on Friday. I was really excited for this matchup because I thought TCU would play a brand of basketball that would be difficult for KU to stop and slow down with such a short rotation. And yeah, they got 74 of their 83 points from the starting five. Like, yeah, that's a pretty short rotation.
But I thought they got good minutes from Timberlake. And they got good minutes from Furphy. And they got good minutes from Parker Brown. So I thought that, they're not going to play a lot of minutes, even in a best case. Well, best case scenario, you're up on a team by 30 with 10 minutes left. You can put those guys in. But like, I felt like what they got from Timberlake, Furphy, and they'd like a little more. I think Furphy was going to get better as the year goes on. But what they got from those guys, I thought was enough.
I would say so. I would agree. And Furphy got to play some key minutes as well, not just throw in minutes.
You can tell he's more comfortable.
Yeah.
He's more comfortable doing stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like, there's somebody over his shoulder. He's just kind of playing a little bit more instinctually, and that's good.
No, you're 100% right.
But yeah, the starters are always going to be the ones who see KU through. And one of them in particular didn't play a very good game. DeJuan Harris, probably for 30 minutes as bad as I've ever seen him play.
First game in his career with 5 turnovers, and he's had a handful of 4 turnover games already this year.
It is incredible that KU won that game turning the ball over 22 times. Like, you don't beat anybody turning the ball over that much, especially because TCU, for their part, did a pretty good job taking care of the basketball. And they like
to run. They take advantage of that.
The other thing, because they scored a lot on, what did they get, 26 points off turnovers?
Something like that.
The other thing that TCU got that is so often an ingredient to beating KU at Allen Fieldhouse is they have one dude shoot like prime Steph Curry. Alfred Lord Tennyson, I believe, was his name. And he made everything in the second half. It was incredible. Off balance, tough twos, fall away threes. He's not even got his feet set. Everything's going in for the famous English poet, Alfred Lord Tennyson.
So you get that's a good win. That is an undeniably good win. You get a crazy game from Hunter Dickinson, who swept the weekly awards, by the way. He was your Big 12 newcomer and player of the week. You win despite Harris not being great. The flagrant foul call. And we got a tweet from our pal Sam, who's a regular listener and YouTube watcher. And I was calling the Washburn games at the time. I was at Lee Arena, and I turned over to my computer to update the score during a media timeout. And I see this tweet, and it's something to the effect of, how did the referees just give this game to KU at the end? And I thought, well, I have no idea because I have not watched the game yet because I am currently at Washburn. The foul itself, I will say this, and I know that if you're a fan of any program other than Kansas, you probably are about to hear what I'm going to say, and you say, of course, you're biased, you're a homer. I don't care what you think about this. I understand why you would be upset that they called that foul. I do. Because as far as flagrant fouls go, was it anything especially egregious? No, it was not. Was it also an elbow to the face of a player behind you? Yeah, let's be realistic about this. That's going to get called pretty much every time. There are a handful of things in basketball that are going to get teed up every time. Washburn game, the women's game against Newman this weekend. Liz Boyd had an awesome play. Or was it the Thursday game against UCO? Either way, Liz Boyd had an awesome play. She pump fakes up in the air, gets a defender flying past her out of view, goes back up, lays it in, and then pointed at her. Cool play, good moment to celebrate. You're usually going to get called for a technical if you point at someone. Christian Brown had that happen famously a couple years ago when he was at KU.
Yes.
Dunked, called someone the B word, and pointed at them. That's going to draw you a technical. You hit someone in the face with your elbow, especially if that player is behind you, fully behind you, you're going to get called for a T. So I get it if you think it's a soft technical. That's also something that's getting called anywhere.
If it had happened with 6 minutes left in the first half, we wouldn't even be thinking about it. Never mind discussing it. Because it's one of those letter of the law fouls where they don't even call them flagrant fouls in the NCAA rulebook anymore. I don't know if you know this. It's unsportsmanlike foul and disqualifying foul. What we think of as the flagrant one or the flagrant two. They're distinguished by unsportsmanlike or disqualifying. And the flagrant one unsportsmanlike foul involves making illegal, non-excessive contact with an opponent above the shoulders. So Ernest Uday's arm came out in a way that was unnatural and had nothing to do with the play, and he hit Hunter Dickinson in the mouth. Did Dickinson make a meal out of it? Yeah, he did.
Yep.
But letter of the law, that is a flagrant one, 2 shots in the ball foul. If it happens with 12 minutes left in the first half, if it happens with 8 minutes left in the second half in a 2-point game, it's whatever. We are not talking about it still today, 2 days later. It's one of those, and we do this all the time. We did this with the Super Bowl last year with, well, you don't want a game to be decided on a call like that. Well, okay, is there a time where it is appropriate to call what is in the rule book? Like, what's the cutoff time where you can no longer call what's in the rule book? What's the cutoff? Is it 2 minutes left in the game? Is it 5 minutes left? At what point do you throw the rule book out on things that are by the book fouls because you don't want to impact how the game ended? Like that's the question that I have. So yes, if you want to say Hunter Dickinson's a flopper, I think he probably agree with you. He might agree with that assessment that he does what he has to do, and honestly, big men typically kind of have to sell calls.
Yeah, you definitely do.
That's how Joel Embiid gets to the free throw line as much as he does in the NBA. It's why Nikola Jokic doesn't, because he is pure of heart and does not flop. That's why he never goes to the free throw line.
He only had 4 points last night. That was crazy.
Yeah, he shot the ball 3 times. He had 16 assists.
Wild.
They
won.
It was the Pistons. He didn't need to shoot.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyhow, you want to say it's a soft flagrant, fine. Like, I'm not going to argue with your assessment of that, but a soft flagrant is still a flagrant, and you have to officiate it that way, whether it's minute 1 of the game or minute 39 of the game.
No, I'm with you on that, and I get the frustration. I do. That's a foul. It is. It is a flagrant foul by the letter of the law. It is, and if you don't like it, well, Ernest Uday learned fine motor skills. Like, I don't. And the fact that it's him, too, also plays into the drama around it.
All kind of narrative. Yeah. All the narrative in that. But then, still, Dickinson had to make both free throws, which, minute left in the game, you're the only guy at the free throw stripe. Those are not easy free throws to make. Then DeJuan Harris has to hit the circus shot of all circus shots to give KU the lead. And then, after KU was unable to get a stop because they had trouble keeping TCU off the offensive glass for the better part of the second half of that game, they had to go down and they had to score again. And this is another point of contention, because there are people who are arguing that maybe Hunter Dickinson got away with an extra half a step, a little shuffle of the pivot foot. I have watched the replay from the TV camera 10 times. I don't know how you can see that. Like, maybe he did.
Yeah.
I can't say it with enough confidence that I'm going to blow the whistle and say, oh yeah, he absolutely, it was a flagrant travel. No, I can't say that with any with any real confidence. Like, look, I get it. Everybody affiliated with KU gets it too. The whistle is friendlier at Allen Fieldhouse. That's a 100% fact.
Yeah.
That is a way of life in the Big 12 conference. But I don't think that had much to do with how that flagrant foul in particular was officiated. That's a flagrant foul in any building in the league, against any player in the league, against any team in the league.
People like to joke that, you play at Allen Fieldhouse, it's 5-on-8. Here's a game where if the other team had 8 players, it still wouldn't have mattered. K-State versus UCF this weekend.
Yeah, they should have let UCF play with 8.
I got home.
Maybe one of those extra 3 could have shot the basketball.
Yeah, no kidding. Good Lord. I got home from Washburn, and Abby's watching the game, and I'm watching for just a little bit, and I had seen the score, and I knew it was ugly. And I told you this. I was driving home I just had left Lee Arena, and I listened to Wyatt and Stan for about 5 minutes and thought, yeah, I'm good. Like that's all. I will take care of watching the game at some point, but this is all I need to hear of it live. This is not much of a game, and I turned on the NFL on the radio. It was a blowout, and sometimes the metrics lie, and with a bigger sample size, they will become more and more accurate because there is no way you can give me whatever numbers, whatever metrics, whatever adjusted things you want to give me. There is no way UCF is a better team than K-State. There is no way that UCF is in the same zip code as K-State. And K-State this year is probably a middle-of-the-pack Big 12 program.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't expect K-State to finish any higher than like 6th in the league. Is probably 5th or 6th is probably their ceiling. So yeah, they are by definition they're a middle-of-the-pack team. They dropped a 12-0 anvil on UCF's head to start that game, and it was like, oh, okay, welcome to the Big 12, guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is a step up. Now, it should be pointed out that I don't know if UCF had worn their road uniforms all season. They certainly hadn't since November. I think they played a true road game at Miami and lost. And then they played in a multi-team event also in Florida. They had not left the Sunshine State since the season started.
Crazy.
And so there's an element of that. Like, your team just doesn't know what it's like to go on the road. And that was not like peak Octagon of Doom by any stretch. The students weren't back yet, so student section wasn't all the way full.
Sure.
They had a good crowd otherwise, and a good energetic crowd. Everybody who was there was into it, and Jerome Tang even credited the crowd for the energy they brought in the game. And Jerome Tang is not shy about saying when he doesn't feel like there's enough energy in the building. So
yeah.
So he credited the fans and credited that energy. But yeah, K-State came out to prove a point, and they were locked in from the start. And then in the second half, they got Tyler Perry going. And Tyler Perry shooting in rhythm and making threes. He went 6 for 11 in the game. But I think at one point he was like 5 of 7. He missed, I think he missed his last 3. But Tyler Perry shooting like that makes everything else make a lot more sense, because you don't need Cam Carter to score a ton. And he can just play a solid all-around game like he did. 12 points. I think he had 4 assists, 6 rebounds. Just good all-around game for him. Good all-around game for Arthur Kaluma. I thought, oh my God, UCF can't guard him. He had like 7 points in the first minute and a half. Then UCF started throwing some bigger guys at him, made it a little tough for him to get to his spots, but he still finished with 14 and 6. David Gasson is the dirty work guy officially for this team. He had 14 rebounds, career high for him. Will McNair got you double figures. The big question is going to be, for K-State, it's kind of the same question we're asking with KU right now. It's like, okay, who are the guys you're going to be able to trust off the bench? Because there were only 2 guys that played outside of the garbage time minutes. And really in the second half, it was only one. It was only Dorian Finister who got off the bench in the second half when the game was, I won't say it was in doubt, but when it wasn't the point of the game at which you're just trying to get it over with. Finister was the first guy off the bench in the second half. And I've talked about, he gives K-State a size element in the backcourt that they don't have otherwise, because Tyler Perry's not big and Cam Carter's only 6'3". Day-Day Ames is only 6'1". They don't have like big guards. Finister's 6'5" and can still do guard stuff, handle the ball, distribute, move the ball around. But he's the guy right now that is best understanding what is required of his role off the bench, which is you're not out there to score 15 a night. You're out there to, reverse the basketball, go get an offensive rebound, guard, be tough to score on the other end. So that's really encouraging from Finister, who I think is a guy who had kind of been forgotten. I think he had 7 DNPs in an 8-game stretch. And now all of a sudden he's the most trustworthy guy right now, with Day-Day Ames kind of struggling to find his game, and with RJ Jones in the witness protection program, and Buddy Rich and Taj Manning, like they're just going with 3 bigs right now. So there's not much playing time for Rich and Manning. So that will be interesting to see moving forward. Is he going to be able to get something out of his bench? Can he get an 8th rotation guy, Jerome Tang, to sort of fill in the blanks? Like, well, what happens if Gasson picks up 2 early fouls, or Will McNair's in foul trouble? Like, can he lean on Taj Manning? Can he lean on Caleb Rich in the post? What happens if Tyler Perry's having an off game, or Cam Carter gets 2 fouls? Can you lean on somebody off the bench to give you
what you need in that situation. That'll bear watching moving forward. But it was an impressive performance. It was as good as they looked all year, even against a team that I think is going to have a really rocky ride in Big 12 play this year.
Yeah, they're not ready for it. And it is what it is. Just like in football, it was hard for the newcomers. It's hard as well for teams in basketball to get adjusted. Houston's obviously really good. I think Cincinnati is off to a good start. They had that big win over BYU this weekend. So
they outscored BYU 47-29 in the second half.
Yeah.
In Provo.
Boat raced them.
I don't think we've said word one about Cincinnati basketball, but like that's always a junkyard dog, tough-minded program. And
I like Wes Miller. I do.
They're going to fit right in this league. They're going to be hard to play. One program I'm already worried I was a little too high on, Texas. Can't lose a home to Texas Tech.
No, but Tech owns them in Austin. They do.
True.
They've dominated at the Moody Center.
This is true. Maybe I'm just salty because I had Texas minus 6.5.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But no, that's bad. Like Texas has played 3 legitimate teams, and they are 0-3.
Yep.
And really, like Texas Tech was in control of that game for 40 minutes. The same when they played Marquette, the same when they play UConn. And those teams are in a different class than Texas Tech, but still, those are the 3 real teams that Texas has played, and they haven't looked like they belonged on the court with either of them. So that would be the one team that lost their conference opener that should be the most concerned.
Rodney Terry thought he beat those accusations with that run to the Elite Eight last year. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. I still think they'll be pretty good. But yeah, when you only have so many games so far to make an impact and you have kind of failed to do so, you're going to get flack, and deservedly so. Coming up on the other side of this timeout, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You, the first one of the week. That's coming up right here on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time here on 580 Sports Talk, week number 2 of What is Wrong With You for 2024. All of our What is Wrong With You segments and stories are brought to you by our friends at Top City Metal Supply. They cook the metal you need to your specifications, which saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to your metal with our friends at Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, right here in the capital city. I will go first with my story today, Dan, and this is one that has gone viral all over the internet in the last couple of days. We're going to Leeds, Alabama. Have you seen this video, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. So we go to Leeds, Alabama, where a man crashed his car outside of a Bass Pro Shop, which is like crashing your car outside of the Taj Mahal. They're just gigantic. Stripped down into the nude and then plunged into the giant aquarium inside the store. The ordeal happened Thursday night in front of shocked shoppers in the town that's just outside of Birmingham. The 42-year-old Alabama man did a cannonball into the aquarium and then stood under a waterfall. He left the water to yell at two police officers, then dove back into the aquarium. The man eventually climbed over the side of the aquarium and fell to the concrete floor below. The picture of it is very funny. He's just laying there in a wet, sticky heap.
A wet, unconscious heap.
Yeah. Police then apprehended him. He was arrested, and he faces several charges, including public lewdness, disorderly conduct, and criminal mischief. The man was reportedly in the water for about 5 minutes before officers arrived. And if I may, at risk of being a little too crude, that must have been the coldest water that man had ever been in. Because if you've ever seen the Seinfeld episode about shrinkage,
it wasn't a flattering look for the guy.
No. You know our nude gentleman was going through.
Look, anybody who's ever been in any kind of pool tub situation, it'd be like that. Like, you know, the game is the game.
Yeah, it was not a...
That's why typically you don't do it in front of strangers.
No.
And you hope it doesn't go viral.
No, and now this guy's area, or lack thereof, is out there for the whole world to see.
That's tough.
This dude dove into the tank at Bass Pro Shop.
What's in the tank? Are there fish? Are there live fish in the tank?
I assume so.
I'm going to keep it all the way real with you and with our listeners. I've never been inside of Bass Pro Shops.
Really?
I ain't never going to be inside of Bass Pro Shops. I can say that with certainty, unless it is the one at the old Pyramid in Memphis, which I might go into just to see. Like one day, if I ever have the occasion to go back to Memphis and have some free time, and I guess I'll go see what the haps is at the old Pyramid. Like Lennox Lewis fought Mike Tyson here, and now it's a Bass Pro Shops. Like I want to see. I'm a little curious, but other than that, like I'm not. I've been into a Cabela's once, and it was to use the ATM. Like this, I'm a very indoorsy type, so I'm not like the stores. They're not selling anything that I'm going to purchase.
You could be like the kids these days, though, and rock a Bass Pro Shops hat.
Well, I'd look like a poser.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I bought one, I would be a poser. I'm just saying those are hot in the streets.
Unlike the kids these days, that matters to me.
Damn, cooked them. Yeah, I mean, it's similar to a Cabela's, maybe a little bit over the top. But I mean, okay, so you've been in a Cabela's. Do you remember seeing the fish tank there?
No.
Like a bunch. Oh, well.
Literally, I went to the front of the store, turned right, they had an ATM.
It
was the only one in Wichita that was a U.S. Bank ATM while I lived there.
There is a Cabela's at the Legends in Kansas City, Kansas. And I've been inside it. And I mean, it is a sight to behold. There's a big fish tank. They got a bunch of big old gray, ugly fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's cool. I mean, they got everything you could want in there. It's like Menards with guns, pretty much. Like, it's huge, and fish. That's essentially what it is. And this guy, I mean, they're crowded because they sell everything. There's always tons of people inside.
Like an REI, but with less granola.
Yes. Yeah. And probably a worse return policy for its members.
Almost certainly.
Yeah. No, I just, what encourages you to do this? And again, now everyone has seen your business. I wouldn't want that.
And that's tough. From one viral story in Alabama to another. This started making the rounds yesterday on Twitter, though in fact it happened on the night of New Year's Eve, in the morning of New Year's Day. It was first tweeted by a Twitter account at Casual Thursday. We have a man stuck in a decorative urn at this Mountain Brook house party. I repeat, we have a drunk man stuck in a large decorative urn at this Mountain Brook house party. What does it look like when a man is stuck in the urn? Well, radio's a visual medium, but the YouTube stream isn't. So our YouTube audience, get a load of Connor here, stuck in the urn. He is all the way stuck.
That is a huge urn.
Yes, it is probably like roughly the size of your torso. And he got in it and probably like bent his knees inside of it to get stuck, but then could not comfortably re-straighten his legs to get out, leading to an exchange that sounded heavily edited like this.
Connor, this is an HR issue.
This used to be a decorative element in a house.
Yeah. Oh, damn it. This is an HR issue.
I'm not. You're not going to be able to get out.
You're going to be there the rest of the show.
We'll get you out. We'll get you out. We are not breaking the fight. I'll give a damn who you are. We're going to get you out. You're sleeping the fight.
Stand up.
What do you think that I'm going to take out for everybody? I'm doing everything I can. Damn it. My sweater off. I already took my belt off. I didn't do.
You hear Connor there, by the way, has an engineering degree from Mississippi State.
That joke writes itself, I think.
We have another shot of our perturbed guy, Connor, stuck in the urn on the YouTube right now. It is one of the funniest images of the new year already. Arms crossed, looking defeated. Like, well, what are y'all going to do? You're going to have to break this thing. And everybody in the everybody in the crowd going, no, we're not going to break it. Epilogue. They had to break it.
They had
to get a chisel and actually chisel it and break it and get Connor free. Now, good news for Connor, the pants survived.
Hey, good for him.
Yes, the pants survived. You maybe heard him say in that clip he had already taken off his belt, and that didn't do bleep. That didn't do him any kind of good to get his belt off, try and remove the pants. But no, he just couldn't straighten his legs because he get stuck in an urn. Why would you look at this decorative urn and think this is something I would like to put myself inside of?
Dog, this is like my hell. I have some mild restless leg syndrome. The thought of having my legs stuck in a bent position for hours, makes me shudder.
You got all these people. How many Alabamans does it take to free somebody from a
large decorative urn? All right, so I was going to vote for the Bass Pro Shop story. I thought these were both great stories. I am going to flip my vote. I'm going to vote for Connor in the urn because my initial thought was I'm going to go with the guy who might be sober. So I looked it up, and apparently the family of the Alabama Bass Pro Shop guy said he might be going through some stuff in his personal life, maybe dealing with a little bit of a mental health crisis lately.
No. All Connor was dealing with was a few too many makers and cokes.
Yeah. So I'm switching my tiebreaker.
He got himself stuck.
I love this second picture, and I wish I could. We could show it to everyone who's listening on the radio because he's clearly kneeling in this urn, and he's got his arms crossed, like, oh shucks, what just happened?
He's just looking like, y'all gonna help?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
I've done everything I can, short of dislocate my own legs.
Vance on YouTube says, not a ringing endorsement of the MSU engineering department. Yeah, that's it goes without saying. Yeah, I'm voting for this one today.
Yeah, urn guy definitely takes it. I just don't understand, I guess, alcohol. But what would, even at my most inebriated, I don't know what would compel me to see like this big decorative thing that is not mine. Like, that's not his decorative urn. That's someone else's. And think, I wonder if I fit in there. Like, why? What are you going to gain from it? I keep coming back to the famous Ricky Waters quote. For who? For what? Was he going to impress people? Hey, little wacky Connor stuck in the urn again. Let's get him some more drinks. Let's all give a big hoot and holler to Connor, the wacky guy stuck in the urn. No, now you're a joke.
Yeah, now you're the urn guy.
You'll never not be this guy. No matter how many parties you go to, no matter what you do with that engineering degree, you are urn guy forever.
Given a speech that is like, 20th anniversary fraternity brother meeting or whatever they do.
They interrupt him 2 sentences in. Hey, man, remember you got stuck in that urn?
Connor, love your speech. Real quick, do you remember when you got stuck in that urn at that party at Mountain Brook?
They had to break it to get you out.
I wonder if it was valuable. I imagine it was.
That was part of the Twitter thread. There were estimates that decorative urn cost anywhere from $500 to $3,000.
No, I hope he had that liquid. Does that get your vote for today?
Yes.
Stuck in the large decorative urn. Hey, man, what'd you do this weekend?
How'd you ring in the new year? Stuck in an urn.
Huh? Don't worry, I got pictures. I got video. Connor, the Alabamian who got stuck in the urn. He is our... And, again, this isn't like he got his fist stuck in a small little urn. This thing is huge.
Yes.
It is massive.
His entire lower body.
Yeah. What an idiot. What a gigantic idiot. That's our winner today in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. I gotta cut this guy out of there. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Coming up next, it's Black Monday in the NFL. What is the big coaching news of the day? We'll break it all down coming up right after this here on 580 Sports Talk. .44 on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. That's Dan. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Dan, you've got some requests from Laramie and Vance, among others, on YouTube to use your Alabama accent more often.
I will take that request under advisement.
At least as long as that story is alive and What Is Wrong With You.
Yeah, I didn't really workshop that accent. That was kind of a on the fly, off the cuff, halfway between like Jim Varney as Ernest and like what I imagine a gentleman from Alabama would sound like.
Favorite Jim Varney role?
Gotta be the delivery man in A Christmas Story.
That's a good one. Mine's Slinky Dog from Toy Story.
The
original Slinky Dog, anyway. After Jim Varney died, they just replaced him with a guy who sounds like Jim Varney. That's not as funny as I'm making it out to be.
I mean, that's showbiz, baby.
It's like the Mitch Hedberg line about smoking pot with Peter Frampton. Like, I was on a movie set, I smoked fake pot with Peter Frampton, which is cool, I guess, but it's not as cool as smoking real pot with a guy that looks like Peter Frampton.
I've done that way more.
Way more.
The Alabama Man. Oh God, what was it? What show was that did the Alabama Man? The Alabama Man action figure.
He can bowl, he could drink some more. Alabama,
South Park?
man. Yeah, South Park. When I grow up, I want to be just like Alabama, man.
Jeez. You a big South Park guy?
No, actually, I've seen like less than 5 episodes in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not a like. It was the cool thing. Like, it was the very subversive thing. Like when I was in like 6th, 7th grade, all my friends were watching it, and I wanted to watch it too. And that was still like, it was so like scary to parents at the time. They had the TVMA thing going.
Yeah.
So my parents were like, yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. And I watched an episode with them, and I'll be frank, it was funny. Like, I walked away from it like, okay. I mean, I guess like I didn't think it was that funny as a 6th grader, which I still feel like is the show's core audience.
Oh yeah, it is. I think it. I like it, but it not enough to like seek it out. There have been times when I thought like, man, I'm bored. I'm gonna watch some South Park. Like, I've done that, but I haven't watched an episode that's been made since like 2008.
I appreciated the Little League episode where they played a championship game at Coors Field. I appreciated the episode where is it Stan went up to Jay Cutler and said, my dad says you suck, but someday you'll be good.
That was his 2nd year in the league. That stuck with him for his whole career. It's incredible.
So yes, as a Coloradan, there were certain references that were made within the show that I would come to appreciate, but no, it was never a thing that I would make a point to watch. I can't believe they're still doing it.
I know.
It's amazing the longevity it's had.
It really is. Big news around the NFL today. It is what they call Black Monday, when coaches who made it through the season are traditionally fired. We already knew of a couple openings. The Raiders, after they fired Josh McDaniels, they better hire Antonio Pierce. I think he's the right guy for that job, honestly.
I think if the players all want it, like, what's the downside?
Yeah.
You may as well give him a shot, see how it works out. Like, I know it's Vegas and it's Mark Davis, and the compulsion to get a splashy name will be out there, but the Raiders haven't felt this much like the Raiders in so long. And it's all because of the attitude Antonio Pierce has brought to that sideline.
You have the Panthers, which was already open. They fired Frank Reich. Who am I missing? Who was fired midseason?
Staley.
Brandon Staley in LA. Thank you. It tells you how forgettable the Chargers were this season. So those were already open. The Atlanta Falcons fired Arthur Smith about 4 milliseconds after midnight Eastern last night. He was canned. Just do it right after the game. Like, why are you going to wait until 12:01:01 to fire him?
Because it's not called Black Sunday.
I guess that's
called
true.
Black Monday.
Yeah, that was something else. I mean, he went 7-10 3 years in a row. I don't think he's a very good head coach. The thing that rubbed me the especially wrong way about Arthur Smith, one, the fact that they drafted Bijan Robinson in the top 10. They already had a decent running back in Tyler Algier. They have a pretty decent offensive line talent-wise, and yet they had the worst run game in the entire NFL. None of that tracks. No. Absolutely none of that makes sense. And also, the fact, like, it'd be one thing if you were winning a bunch of games, not throwing to Drake London and Kyle Pitts or handing off to Bijan Robinson, and it was like, well, we're riding what works. But he was such a stubborn ass about it. And I was like, well, we won the game, didn't we? Why do we need to throw to Kyle Pitts 12 times? We won the game. Oh, I don't know, dude, because he's your best player.
So convinced of his own genius that everything is evidence of his genius.
Yeah.
Even the things that are not genius at all. Like, just so convinced of his own brilliance. And it's no coincidence that he's like one of the ultimate Nepo baby instances we have in sports. A guy who only got his first gig in the Washington coaching staff as an intern because his dad owned the naming rights to the stadium. There are people who don't know this, I think. His dad owns Federal Express.
Yes. Yes, he is the son of the guy who owns FedEx.
Yes, like, that is his company. So that was Arthur Smith's in to coaching. And he was able to get this far, and like, he's been a good offensive coordinator, and I don't doubt that he can be again. But as a head coach, it didn't work.
He helped Ryan Tannehill find a lot of success in Tennessee. He was there for the best years of Derrick Henry's career.
Yeah,
when they were,
they went to the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So
he clearly knows what he's doing, but some guys can't be head coaches because they are too far up their own backside or whatever.
Yeah, it's that
again, comes back to him being a Nepo baby, being so convinced of his own rightness because, well, this has worked for me. Well, a lot of things worked in your favor to get you here too. Not necessarily just because you're this big football genius or you're not the smartest guy in the room. And he always acted, that was the thing about his press conference. He always acted like he was the smartest guy in the National Football League. And you can't do that and go 7-10 3 straight years.
No, you can't. So I assume he will be an offensive coordinator next year, though. I think he will be hired by someone this offseason. I would be very shocked by that. Ron Rivera out in Washington. We all knew that was coming. If they had been in the playoff hunt this year, I wouldn't have been super surprised if they had still let him go because new owner trying to put a stamp on things. I told you last Tuesday when we did our bold predictions, I think Washington, even though they have the number 2 pick, I think they're going to trade with the Bears for number 1. I think they are going to go and try to get Caleb Williams because he's a DC guy, new ownership, new coach. They are also interviewing everyone. I think they have asked to interview every single assistant coach in the NFL.
Covering all their bases.
Including Raheem Morris, who I think will be a good coach again someday. He was an assistant on that 2013 Washington staff that had like 900 future head coaches on it. LaFleur and Shanahan and McVay and McDaniel and all those guys. They also were in the news today. They're interviewing Mike Borgonzi, the assistant GM of the Chiefs, which I think would be a good hire if they were able to get him. Anyone would get a good hire with him. They're also hiring Bob Myers as a consultant. If you don't know that name, he was one of the architects of the Golden State Warriors dynasty. He left the Warriors, just kind of his time to move on to something else. He's been doing color commentary and studio analysis for the NBA on ESPN this year. I thought he was taking this job and leaving TV. He's not. He's still going to do the NBA on ESPN while also consulting the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, what's he going to do? Walk in there and say, you guys should go get Steph Curry.
Who's your Draymond? Whoa. Hold on now. Hold on here, Bob.
You know what you guys should do? Should give $132 million to Jordan Poole.
Hey, he already is in Washington. Doesn't even have to move. We are still waiting word. We also know, by the way, Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator for the Giants, he resigned in New York. Word is that he's going to find a new home soon. He'll be somewhere else next year. Scott Fitterer, also the GM of the Panthers, he was fired this year. Why not just fire him last year? You brought in a coach for 1 year and then fired that coach and the GM. Why not just fire Fitterer last year?
Here are some of Scott Fitterer's greatest hits. Scott Fitterer declined to trade Brian Burns at the peak of his value to get 2 first-round picks because he thought the Panthers were close to contending.
They were not.
They were not. He did not get a first-round pick in trading Christian McCaffrey. Did not get a first-round pick in that trade. Christian McCaffrey, best running back in football. Drafted Ike Ekwonu, number 6 overall, a left tackle who can't play. Traded 3 draft picks for Sam Darnold, including a 2nd and a 4th rounder. Traded up to get DJ Johnson. You don't know who that is. He traded up to get that guy. Drafted Jonathan Mingo, who doesn't look like he can play. Traded DJ Moore. Let Hassan Reddick walk. Used a 3rd-round pick on Matt Corral. Gave Miles Sanders a big bag.
Highest paid running back of the offseason, Miles Sanders. And he's like the 4th best running back on that team.
Panthers record the last 3 years, 14-37.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Yeah, he's really bad at his job. He doesn't get to keep his job. Speaking of bad GMs who do get to keep their job, it sounds like Denver's going to bring George Payton back.
Well, they get what they deserve. That is the end of the analysis on that. They get what they deserve. He has proven time and again he does not know what he's doing. And if they want to stick with it, best of luck. It sounds like, at least I saw the other day, Sean Payton is the one who's making that call.
Because
which also tells
Sean
me,
Payton is making all the calls, and George Payton is just window dressing.
Which, I mean, if that's the case, fine. But why not try to inspire something in your fan base and move on? I don't get it. Real quick, we got about 40 seconds here. 2 coaches we have not heard official word on yet. Matt Eberflus in Chicago, stay or go?
I think he's staying.
I think so too, which is, again, why? How do you see that game yesterday and keep him? Finally, Belichick.
I kind of feel like they're letting him hang around until he finds the job he wants, and then they're going to say mutual parting of the ways, and then he'll be announced at his new job.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I was fully in on they're going to let him stick around to start the new quarterback's career because they will probably take a quarterback. I don't think so anymore. All the big reporters are saying he's gone, so I think he will be somewhere else, which is crazy to think about. We've got 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk coming up after the news. 1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. Thanks so much for stopping by 580 Sports Talk today. A victory Monday for the Kansas City Chiefs. They took down the Los Angeles Chargers in a game that will be forgotten to time. No one, and I mean no one, is going to remember this game in 10 years. There's record of it. It'll be on Pro Football Reference. There's mention of it on a Wikipedia page somewhere. There's official stats in Blaine Gabbert's career, on the back of his football card. You'll see something from this game. No one will remember a single thing about this game. It will be completely lost to time.
B.J. Thompson might remember because it was his first NFL game.
Yeah.
But
Mike Edwards might remember the touchdown.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I won't. You'll be like, hey, remember that time the Chargers or the Chiefs beat the Chargers 13-12?
That time Blaine Gabbert outdueled Easton Stick.
And I'll say, you made those people up. That never happened. Just kidding. I'll remember Blaine Gabbert because I just compare every Missouri quarterback to him. Like, Brady Cook is fast Blaine Gabbert. Drew Lock is just brunette Blaine Gabbert. That's just how I compare.
Blake Bortles was Blaine Gabbert. They were the same person.
Yeah.
He just went back to college to change his name.
I saw something crazy. Like, the Jaguars have only won a game by double figures in December once in the last decade or something, and it was a game they won with Blake Bortles at quarterback. Something crazy like that.
This texter makes a good point from the 785, and our text line is open, 785-272-9429. This texter says Chris Jones will remember making $1.25 million.
That's true.
I got to be honest. If I went into a day of work and I was told, hey, do this one thing, it won't be easy, but if you do this one thing, you will make $1.25 million. If I did that thing and made that money in that one day, I would also remember that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. All right. Have you seen the video of Jadeveon Clowney celebrating his sack yesterday? Better celebration, Clowney or Jones? Because they stopped the game for Jadeveon Clowney to celebrate getting his incentive for Baltimore. He gets the sack. I've got it up now. I wish I could show it to everybody. But he goes nuts. It is like stop the whole game. He's dancing around. He's celebrating. It's a whole big thing. He's all fired up. He's doing the riding the pony thing. It's crazy. He also wears 24, which is sick. It is disgusting. Absolutely vile.
I know. At least let him wear 7.
Wasn't that what Melvin Ingram wore with the Chiefs?
Yes,
24?
Melvin Ingram wore 24 with the Chiefs. Yes.
Disgusting. Go back to more number rules. We've gotten too lax. Much, much too lax. Like Sky Moore wearing 24. Put on a wide receiver number. 24, 84. Well, no. Justin Watson wears that. Sky Moore, you're wearing 86 next year. Too many.
No, he's getting 86 next year.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's certainly true.
We didn't rehearse that, by the way. That was well done.
That was well done. Sam in the YouTube comments, he says, at least compare them to Chase Daniel, not Blaine Gabbert.
Okay,
quarterback.
They're all bad Chase Daniel.
Hey, I'll give Blaine Gabbert credit. He followed in Chase Daniel's footsteps and has made pretty good money as a backup.
Yeah.
Got to win a Super Bowl even.
Now, that, by the way, not a knock on those other guys. Just Chase Daniel rocked like he was
a really good player in college.
Really good.
Really good player in college. Sam also says regarding the Patriots and Bill Belichick, he says Patriots-Titans head coach swap. I saw that brought up by someone this morning. I checked Twitter and I saw something about that. I don't know if it was just rumor or conjecture or what. Can you explain to me why the Tennessee Titans might not want Mike Vrabel next year? Because I heard that this weekend and I thought, excuse me? Why?
You would have to feel like you've done all you can do in the Mike Vrabel era. Like you've hit the ceiling and it's not going to be any better than what it's already been. And that's the only thing I can think of, that I lost the dressing room or whatever. Just like you feel like the Mike Vrabel era has peaked and we are not peaking again. Like it's all downside from here. That would be how you would have to feel.
I guess, and maybe Vrabel. This is the other thing I read today. I think it was from someone at the NFL Network, said that he has been kind of soured on what the front office has done. Not that he's got a bad relationship with their GM, Rand Cawthorn, but just like, what are we doing? Like, what's the plan with this roster?
Yeah.
What's the competitive timeline?
It's not a good roster. They weren't good. I mean, it's 6-11.
I could get it more if it was Vrabel saying, I want to guarantee we're going to be better or I want to leave. But if you're I've said this to you many times. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league.
Yeah.
I think he's a great head coach. If they want to let him walk, go again, similar to the Broncos saying, yeah, let's bring back George Payton. You get what you deserve if you let that guy walk away. Because the odds of you finding someone better, low. Very, very low. Although the interesting thing about Bill Belichick is he does have a house in Nashville. Every celebrity does. Every famous and rich person has a house in Nashville.
That's the new hot place now, I guess.
It is. It really, really is. Coming up in this hour, we'll get to the rest of our 580 Sports Talk headlines here in just a bit. We'll preview the national championship game, Washington versus Michigan, and we'll get our final thoughts on Chiefs-Chargers and the matchup between the Chiefs and Dolphins in the wildcard round of the playoffs. As Dan said, our text line is open. 785-272-9429 is the text line number, and you can also find us on YouTube. Search 580 Sports Talk to find our YouTube channel. You can go swing on by, drop a comment, and hang out with us. Let us know your thoughts on anything we are talking about on the show today. Let's get to it. Our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. I'm going to start with the 2024 College Football Hall of Fame class. They induct a lot of players.
They do. It's a fairly new Hall of Fame, so they're playing catch up. They got like 150 years of history to try and correct, and the end result is it took Tommy Frazier several years to finally get into the College Football Hall of Fame. Like, they're behind and they're playing catch up, and that's why their classes are so big.
Yeah, which I get. That's one place I would love to go. I'd love to go see the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta someday.
Yeah.
Or the Pro Football Hall of Fame for that matter. All right, these are in alphabetical order. And it starts with a very funny one. Justin Blackmon, wide receiver, Oklahoma State.
I hope he's okay.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Like, he obviously had some problems with alcohol that conspired to derail his NFL career. So I just hope he's doing all right.
He was such a good player in college. And I really thought he was going to be a good player in the NFL as well. Did the Jaguars finally release him? He was on their roster on the exempt list for years. He's not listed currently. So they must have finally released him. But I know they were just holding on to him because, like, what does it benefit us to cut him at this point? So Justin Blackmon deserved. He was a great player at Oklahoma State. Paul Cameron at UCLA. Tim Couch, quarterback at Kentucky. Warwick Dunn, by all accounts, one of the best people maybe to ever play football at any level. Armonte Edwards, multi-time national champion at Appalachian State at the FCS level, then 1AA. Deion Figures at Colorado.
Yeah, Jim Thorpe Award winner.
Larry Fitzgerald, from Pitt. Toby Gerhart at Stanford, the albino rhino. Loved Toby Gerhart when he was at Stanford. They had so many good running backs in the 2000s at Stanford. Dan Hampton from Arkansas, Chicago Bears legend when he got to the NFL. Steve Hutchinson, an all-time great offensive lineman, went to Michigan. Antonio Langham, or is it Langham at Alabama?
Langham.
Randy Moss. Yeah, Randy Moss. Julius Peppers, North Carolina, one of the best athletes to ever play the game. Paul Posluszny, who was incredible at Penn State in the mid-2000s. Dewey Selman at Oklahoma. Alex Smith, former Chiefs quarterback for his career at the University of Utah. Kevin Smith from Texas A&M. Ohio State's Chris Ward. And finally, one I know near and dear to your heart, having worked for several years in western Nebraska, Chadron State's own Danny Woodhead.
Hey, I am just learning this. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's great. I worked 4 years in North Platte, Nebraska. That's where Danny's from. And the stories are, even then, not that far. Like, while his NFL career was in progress, the stories were just legendary. And I'm sure they only grow more legendary with time. Yeah. What an athlete he was. And obviously great college career at Chadron State. I think he was a Harlan Hill Trophy winner. Twice, right? And
that's only ever happened 3 times, and he was one of them.
Yeah, and carved out a really solid NFL career despite being 5 foot nothing. Great inspirational story for somebody who I know inspired a generation of Nebraskans, probably a generation of Midwesterners from smaller towns. Very, very cool story. Good for him, man. That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
He is here's the stat. Barry Sanders is the only college player to accumulate more all-purpose yards in one season than what Danny Woodhead did in 2006, when he gained 3,250 all-purpose yards. He won the Harlan Hill Trophy that year, just like Barry Sanders won the Heisman Trophy when he did that at Oklahoma State.
I think when he graduated North Platte High, he had the basketball scoring record and he had the soccer scoring record.
Crazy.
And obviously his share of football records as well.
How about this? I'm just parsing through Danny Woodhead's Wikipedia page right now. In 2004, he became the first ever recipient of a full ride athletic scholarship at Chadron State.
Huh.
That's unbelievable. Also, really difficult to build a good program at the D2 level because you have fewer scholarships and a lot of guys get a lot of their education paid for, but not a ton of full rides. That's pretty crazy.
And I don't know what you know about Chadron, Nebraska.
Not Western Nebraska.
It's in the Panhandle. It's really out of the way. Like, I don't want to say remote, but kinda. Like, it's not a lot going on up in the northern Panhandle of Nebraska. You have Alliance. At least they've got Carhenge. Like, Chadron, I've been there. I've been to Chadron. There's nothing there. And so it's pretty remarkable to think about, like, the lengths that scouts had to go to see Danny Woodhead's games.
Okay. I think you're not giving Chadron enough credit because Chadron's Museum of the Fur Trade is the largest of its kind in the United States.
I didn't hang around Chadron long enough to visit the museum, unfortunately.
They also have an annual event called Fur Trade Days.
That sounds about right. Everybody's got a something days.
I don't know, man. That sounds fun as hell. I'd go to Fur Trade Days. Their downtown looks cute. That's nice. Good for Chadron. And there are 5,000 people. But yeah, that's your Hall of Fame class for the College Football Hall of Fame this year.
All right, my first headline. We're going to the world of soccer for this one. Inter Miami and Lionel Messi are coming to Kansas City this coming MLS season to play against Sporting KC. And the organization, Sporting KC, announced today that Children's Mercy Park ain't big enough. And they are going to play that game at Arrowhead Stadium, April 13th. Messi comes to KC, and the league match between Inter Miami and Sporting Kansas City will take place at Arrowhead Stadium. Tickets will start at $65 for the general public. Single game tickets will go on sale 8 days from now, Tuesday, January 16th. So if you want to see one of the greatest athletes and certainly the greatest soccer player of a generation, more people will have an opportunity to do that, obviously. The capacity at Children's Mercy is, 23,000?
Is it even that many?
I'm going to look. You're right. It's 25,000 for concerts. For soccer, it's only 18,500.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So obviously, Arrowhead substantially bigger. Its capacity is 76.5.
I bet concerts sound crazy at Sporting Park.
I bet they do too. I bet they got good acoustics there.
I would bet.
I would imagine. Anyway, so yeah, that's an increase. A little back of the napkin math here. 58,000 more people that can get inside the gates and be able to say that they saw the great Lionel Messi play a match. That is, provided he isn't injured or just held out of the match for whatever reason by Inter Miami's coaches, which would be an all-time catastrophe, essentially.
I mentioned this earlier when I was teasing this headline. I've seen on Twitter a surprising amount of pushback for this.
So I think the pushback comes from people who care about the MLS and the fortunes of Sporting Kansas City as like a team competing for championships, where you can say you are giving away a home field advantage for this match by not playing it at the more cozy confines of a stadium where, like, the season ticket holders are already entrenched. There's not going to be that much general admission ticket sales for that match, and you will have, the blue hell, as it's known, in full effect, and you'll have a crowd that is loud and pushing Sporting Kansas City on to victory, you hope, where at Arrowhead it's going to be a bunch of looky-loos wearing Barcelona jerseys. It's going to be a lot of people who are there for Messi, and so you are essentially losing a home game. You are giving away home
home pitch advantage for a league match. And I understand from like a competitive standpoint, if you are really interested in how Sporting Kansas City does, if you are a diehard fan, if whether they win or lose matters to you, yeah, I understand why you feel like, well, you're turning what should be like an important match. I mean, it's 3 points on the line in the league table, and we're turning this into essentially an exhibition. We're making it feel like an exhibition by moving it out of our stadium to a bigger stadium, and it's going to be overrun by people who are only there to cheer everything that Messi does. I get it. I do. The flip side of this is Messi's good for business for everybody. And the more people who get to experience this, the better. And it might be better for business for Sporting Kansas City in the long run. If this is your introduction to the MLS, if Messi's the one who gets you in the door, maybe this is good for business for Sporting Kansas City and other franchises in the MLS in the long run.
So that's the question I have then is, does an event like this actually build the business? Does it expand the reach? Does it contribute to the growth of the game that the MLS is trying to reach? Because to me, and I say this as someone who is not a soccer fan, and I'm not anti-MLS. Why would I be? I'm just not into the sport. So I hear things. I went to KU with someone. He's a newspaper writer in Boise now, who is he's from England. He grew up in England, came over to the Kansas City area when he was in high school. And I remember he and I going back and forth one time about the names of soccer teams, because I was like, no, why do you have to mimic European clubs? Why does it have to all sound like what's overseas? And his response was, it gives you an air of seriousness, because for so long, MLS has been treated as this redheaded stepchild of international soccer, and it's not taken seriously around the world. So by doing even branding things like that, you are making it feel a little bit more serious on an international level.
Sporting Kansas City feels like a more serious sports concern than Kansas City Wiz.
Whereas my stance, and I'm open to different strokes.
And I know they changed it to the Wizards, folks. They were the Wiz first.
Sure.
So they'll be the Wiz forever.
And to me, it was like, well, why do you have to just replicate what someone else is doing? Why can't you build something
your
good?
own soccer culture,
right,
instead of trying to mimic European soccer culture?
Because that's what it has felt like to me. Like the MLS is just trying to be a clone.
Yes, you are cosplaying Premier League fandom, and like when you are like, that's what it feels like when I watch an MLS game and I see even like the supporter sections. It's like it's like cosplay. It's like this. It feels. I guess there are places that have been really good soccer cities that have kind of earned it.
Yeah.
And I think Kansas City is one of those.
Yes.
But when I see people doing it in like Minneapolis, or like the 12 or 13 people that still care about the Colorado Rapids doing the whole drum thing at a Rapids match at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, it feels like they're imitating something. It feels like a pale imitation at that.
So for this, I've seen this reaction from friends I have that are big fans of Sporting, who are like, this is taking it away from people who care about it, and the league ramifications and all of that. Whereas my stance, again, as an admitted total outsider, is you're going to have upwards of 50,000 people at this game who in all likelihood would never watch you otherwise, or probably would not be watching you otherwise. And they're going to see the biggest global star in the sport coming to Kansas City. And you're going to have people say, oh, wow, I had never heard of so-and-so before. Like, this is a big deal. I would think that's a positive.
Let me make the counterpoint argument to that, though, which is that ever since it was announced he was coming to MLS has given itself over entirely to the spectacle of Lionel Messi, and essentially have signified with every move they have made that this is what we got. We got Messi. What else do we got? Are you going to watch our playoffs? Are you going to buy season tickets for your local club? Are you going to subscribe to our Apple TV Plus? We got Messi.
No, and that's exactly what I was wondering. And I think that's a great point. Like, is this, when you mentioned that's been good for business and it's good for business for everyone, I think the question I would ask if I was in charge of that league is it good for business now, or is this good for the future of our business? Because right now,
Yeah,
you're riding the gravy train.
Is it a bubble that can burst?
Right,
And
exactly.
what happens because Lionel Messi can't play forever.
Yeah.
So what happens when he doesn't? Like, do you let's say Nate McCady, who's done play-by-play for Sporting Kansas City for a long time, pointed out that the last time that Sporting Kansas City played at Arrowhead, it was an exhibition match against Manchester United, one of the biggest global soccer brands that there is. And they filled Arrowhead Stadium, and the next day, Sporting Kansas City sold 1,500 season tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get that level of buy-in, if you get people who show up, maybe bring their kids, and they go to see Messi, and they enjoy the time that they had, they have fun, and then they decide, you know what, we want to do more of this. We want to buy more Sporting Kansas City tickets. We're going to get involved with the local team more. We're going to buy season tickets. We're going to buy merchandise. Like, what makes it worth it for the franchises? Because the league right now, it's all about Messi and when does he play and when does he go to different cities and when does he come to your city? Like, what's left if your selling point is this guy? What happens when this guy is not a part of the league anymore?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question. I think it's something MLS has to ask itself. Next headline for you?
That was my headline.
That was your headline. You're right. It was. I hijacked it. That's my mistake. Speaking of hijacking things and loving attention, let's go to the NBA for our next headline, shall we?
Okay.
I'm pretty much over Draymond Green at this point. I think I was later to that than most people were. I didn't really care all that much. But we have come to what I think is one of the most ridiculous things that I've heard in quite some time, which for the NBA, there's a fairly high bar for that. This is the writing of Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN. In an emotional conversation around the time of his indefinite league suspension, Golden State Warriors star Draymond Green suggested that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver talked him out of retirement, according to his monologue on his most recent episode of the Draymond Green Show podcast. In a clip of the podcast that was shared with ESPN Monday, Green, after hitting Phoenix center Yusuf Nurkic in the face back in December, said he shared an exchange with Silver that included talk about his immediate desire to walk away from the NBA. I told him, Adam, this is too much for me, Green said. This is too much. It's all becoming too much for me, and I'm going to retire. Green then adds, and Adam said, you're making a very rash decision, and I won't let you do that. You know my feelings about Adam Silver and the fact that jellyfish have stronger spines than that guy.
Right.
If I was the commissioner of the NBA and Draymond Green says, this is too much for me, I'm going to retire, I'm telling him, I'll help you pack your bags. This is too much for me.
Yeah.
It's your own fault.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful not to have that headache, wouldn't it?
It is entirely 100% your own doing. What do you mean this is too much? You did it to yourself. I have no sympathy at all for him.
Yeah, there aren't many less sympathetic figures in sports than Draymond Green. Also, I like the anecdote where he said that Steve Kerr came over to his house and they both cried.
I mean, Steve Kerr is pretty used to crying all the time under anyway.
Yeah,
so.
Nobody cries more than those two guys on the court.
Knock off John Paxson. Jeez. I always have enjoyed watching the Warriors play basketball because it's a very fun kind of basketball.
Yes, at their best, they played the kind of high-level basketball that you just loved to watch. This is no longer
No, it's not, because Steph is older, and he's still great, but he's older. Draymond can't do anything. Clay is broken. His body is completely broken.
Clay's totally washed.
Yeah, completely. Wiggins, he used up all of Andrew's secret stuff. He's cooked. And they have a couple nice young players like Pods, the rookie they drafted from Santa Clara.
Oh, that floppy-haired doofus. Get him out of my face.
Despite what Dan said, he's got some promise to him. I enjoyed watching him play in college when he was at Illinois and then Santa Clara. But they're just they added Chris Paul. That was their big off-season addition.
Now he's out 4 to 6 weeks with hand surgery.
And it's just dude, you're kicking dudes in the balls and you're elbowing guys in the face. You're throwing punches and choking. You did this entirely to yourself. I have no sympathy at all.
I don't remember which WWE guy it is, but there's that meme that goes around of the WWE guy saying, you're done, you're washed, it's over. And that's how I feel about Draymond and really the Warriors dynasty as a whole. It's not Roman Reigns. Maybe it's not Roman Reigns. It's some other guy.
It's Damian Priest.
Ah, gotcha.
Who is Puerto Rican Roman Reigns, essentially.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
You're done. You're washed. It's over.
Yeah. Get out of the league, man. I'm done with him. Do you have any more headlines for today?
It is the roof is leaking at NRG Stadium.
Oh, I thought you meant here in our station.
No,
which is also
I meant
true.
at NRG Stadium where they are playing the national championship game in about an hour. The roof is leaking. They are having terrible weather in Houston. They are in a tornado watch until 9 p.m. tonight. So to the point where the city of Houston was urging people, hey, get into the stadium as soon as you can so you don't have to deal with all the funky weather. But yes, the roof is closed, but it is leaking, much to the bafflement of everybody kind of around who say they have never seen it leak before.
That's wild. And
it doesn't look
really
like
bad.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's leaking in the middle of the field. It looks like the leak is in the corner of the Michigan end zone, the one with Michigan written in it. So that's happening.
Wow.
They play in an hour. We should talk about it.
Yeah, we probably should. And we'll do that coming right up after this on 580 Sports Talk. Two undefeated programs enter. Only one will remain after tonight's national championship game. We will find out. Will it be Michigan? Will it be Washington? Two powers that haven't won titles, disputed or otherwise, since the early 1990s. Well, not the early 1990s. Michigan was what, 97?
Yeah, 97.
Okay, so since the 1990s period. It's been quite a long time. 1997 was 27 years ago. So it's been a while for both of these programs since they've won national titles. Two great storylines. Michigan, I think, has been the best team in the country all year long. Washington is kind of the feel-good team this year. Michael Penix is an awesome story, sixth-year senior. 4 season-ending injuries when he was at Indiana, has been just lighting it up with Washington. Kalen DeBoer, head coach at Washington, worked his way up. Two different stories of coaches and how they've gotten there as well. DeBoer got his first head coaching job at the University of Sioux Falls, which is now D2, but at the time was NAIA, won 3 national titles there, went 67-3 in his stint at Sioux Falls. Then has been an offensive coordinator at Fresno State, at Indiana, head coach at Fresno State, head coach at Washington, and has just won everywhere he's been and been great everywhere he's been. And you've got Jim Harbaugh, whose dad was a coach forever. His brother's a coach. He played in the NFL, and he got into coaching while he was still on an active roster in the NFL at the end of his career. It's been in his blood for forever, and high-level coaching has been in his blood for forever. Two different kinds of programs, two different ways they've gotten there, two different, very different head coaches. I think it's a great matchup. I think this is the best. Georgia in the game would have been great because it's a good Georgia team. If they're not quite as good as they'd been the last 2 years, which is, again, a pretty high bar to clear, I love this national championship game. I think it's the perfect matchup of clash of styles, of storylines. And I still think Michigan is the better team, but I really would like to see Washington win, even though it would upset my wife, who's a Washington State grad.
So I think the biggest questions for Washington, because they do come in as the underdogs, the line has been bouncing around a lot today. It sat at 4.5, Michigan minus 4.5 most of the week. It got up to 5.5, got up to 6 in some places earlier today. Now it's back down, settled about 5.5. But Michigan is the favorite, and a lot of that is the sharp money. This is what the Vegas insiders would call the pros versus Joes. The professional gamblers are all on Michigan, so the big money is on Michigan. The public, they really like Washington. They think Washington's going to pull it off, and they're all behind the Huskies. So that's what you've got, and that's why the line has moved kind of in Michigan's favor, I think, as the week has gone on. I think Michigan's going to win. And the reason I think Michigan is going to win is because I think they're going to be able to play keep away and run the ball down Washington's throat.
Okay.
I do not think Washington can stop the run. Washington could not stop Texas's run. Texas rushed for 6 yards a carry against them. Texas didn't stay committed to it. Michigan is not going to have that problem. Jim Harbaugh would run the ball every play if he could.
Yep.
Which
is so funny for a quarterback.
Yes. He would run the ball every single play if he could. So they're going to run it and dare Washington to stop. And if Washington commits 7-8 guys to the box, then Michigan's passing game is good enough to win downfield against Washington secondary. That it's not a great Washington defense, to be frank. It's not a great defense. It's been a defense that has very much been bend but don't break throughout the year. It's going to be stress tested by the best running game they've seen and a team that will fully and without hesitation commit to the run. And I think that Michigan's going to be able to run the ball successfully, just hammer it between the tackles. And in doing so, shorten the amount of time that Michael Penix is on the field. Yeah. So that's the other question for Washington. Because, I think Michigan's going to win, but it won't be shocking if Washington does. It won't be this, oh my goodness, upset. Washington's 3-0 as an underdog this year, straight up. Every time they've been an underdog this year, they have won the game, including both of their, they were 9.5-point underdogs in the Pac-12 championship game, and they smoked Oregon. And then they were underdogs against Texas, and they won that game too. So they've been beating the odds all season long. And the way they beat the odds again is Michael Penix is perfect. And maybe he and his wide receivers are good enough to be perfect, because they were perfect just about against Texas. Every deep ball they threw, they came down with and made a big play out of it. They are now facing the best pass defense in college football. And now maybe the metrics are lying a little bit because
Big Ten.
Michigan played a Big Ten schedule. So who's the best quarterback they've seen to this point? Talia Tagovailoa?
Yes.
As a passing quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, big gap. Kyle McCord wasn't that. And Drew Aller, certainly not that. And Jalen Milroe, not that. Penix and these receivers are different animals. And maybe it's Joel Anderson was on Bomani Jones's podcast last week and said, maybe this is 2019 LSU. And we just haven't realized it until now that what this Washington team has is a future NFL stud at quarterback and multiple future NFL studs at wide receiver. And it doesn't matter who's on defense. They just make play after play after play. Maybe that's what they are. And if they are, I think they will win. I think they'll get out to a lead and they'll force Michigan out of their comfort zone. But I think it's more likely that Michigan will be able to take away some of the core passing concepts that have been so critical to Washington's success this year. And the reason I think they're going to do that, a lot of people say that what Washington runs passing wise, it's NFL-ish. It's not really a college passing attack. It's really advanced. You can do that when your quarterback's 24 years old.
Yes.
They have a very advanced NFL-like passing attack. Well, Michigan's pass defense is very NFL-ish.
Yes, it
It's
is.
2 high safeties. It is designed to defeat NFL-style passing games. Why is that the case? Who do they play at the end of every season
Ohio
that
State.
runs an NFL-style passing game? Ohio State.
With nothing but NFL wide receivers.
Yes. And Michigan has geared their defense to win that game every year, to beat Ohio State every year. So I think they are equipped to not stop, but slow Washington's passing attack enough, make them settle for field goals, make them have to punt the ball a couple of times. And I think they're going to shorten the game with their running game. They're going to hammer and chisel away. It's going to be a big night for Blake Corum. And I think Michigan wins the game.
My big worry for the Washington offense is what they're going to be able to do in the running game. Because while we know the passing game is what sets it all up for the Huskies, it is the fact that Michael Penix has crazy accuracy and a good arm, and you've got Roma Dunze, who is a mutant of an athlete at wide receiver, plus Jalen Polk, who would be a number 1 for almost any program in the country, plus Jalen McMillan, who could also be a number 1 for a lot of programs across the country. They have found a lot more success in the last 2 games. Because remember, before the second Oregon game, Washington had been sputtering. They had not been playing at their best because Penix was clearly banged up and he was straight up sick for one game. They had not been at their best, really, between the 2 Oregon games.
Yes, there's a reason Penix didn't win the Heisman, and that they went in as 9.5-point underdogs to that Oregon game.
Exactly. They have, against Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game, and then for most of the game against Texas, and a lot of the time when they found success offensively over the course of the season is because they have a really good running back in Dylan Johnson, who has been a revelation for that team because he's got power, he's got speed, he's also got a bum foot, and hurt it again at the end of the Sugar Bowl. And he's going to play. I feel like I'm usually fairly conservative when it comes to player injuries. I don't know how effective he is going to be in this game. And even with a team that throws the ball as well as Washington does, when you're going up against good corners, good safeties, and a good scheme like Michigan has, if you're one-dimensional, that's going to make things so much more difficult for you. Washington, good offensive line. What does Michigan have? Good defensive line, good pass rushers, good size all across the board. This is not like, if for example, Texas had completely shut down the running game, which they didn't do a terrible job against it in the Sugar Bowl. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. But they don't have the same kind of horses on the back end that Michigan does, and Penix could still pick you apart and did for about 3.5 quarters of that game. Michigan is a different animal. So if you can't get something going to try to keep Michigan honest with that ground game and try to get a few more one-on-one matchups, to get some of those pro-style concepts when you get the favorable alignments across the formation, if you can't get that because Dylan Johnson is too banged up or because Tybo Rogers just ain't that guy or whatever, I don't feel great about Washington in this game. I think Michigan is going to play very old school football. I think we're going to spend the entire game, if you're someone who likes to live tweet or read Twitter or read a Facebook group or whatever, you're going to see probably a lot of, wow, JJ McCarthy is actually a bum in this game. Because I think Michigan would prefer to win this game without throwing it more than 20 times, if we're being honest. And I think JJ McCarthy would tell you the same thing. Like, hey, how many teams have a Blake Corum in the country? Yeah. Not many. He's that good. We've got this great offensive line. Run, set up the play action, get the ball to Roman Wilson 5 to 7 times. That should be a good formula for Michigan to win this game because I think you can wear this Washington team down. Man, I said the other day on Friday, right before we sent it off to high school hoops, that I was thinking Washington on the spread. That feels like the really square pick right now to go with the public. I'm going to pick Michigan to win. I think they're the best team in the country. I like the under, though. If I was going to bet on something in this game, I'd bet the under.
Yeah, it feels like 24-20 to me. This feels like a game, like not a lot of possessions. I think Michigan would be thrilled if each team had like 9 or fewer possessions in this game.
Because I think a higher scoring game favors Washington.
Yes.
I think as much as I like McCarthy, he's not as good of a quarterback as Michael Penix is. And I think the
numbers tell you that he is as efficient, but like the eye test, like McCarthy's got a big arm, but the throws Penix makes, McCarthy's not making.
And I think for as important as efficiency is over the course of a season, that's when you're projecting and when you're talking about like a full body of work evaluation, that is extremely important. But on a one-game sample size, if it's a 1 or 0 score game in the fourth quarter and you need a splash play on 3rd and 10, who are you taking?
Definitely
I'm taking
Washington. Yeah,
I'm taking Washington there. So I think the higher scoring this game is, the better chance this one belongs to Washington. And that's why I think you're going to see Larry Johnson-like carry numbers for Blake Corum in this game. And Donovan Edwards, too, because Donovan Edwards is a very solid back.
Yeah, they've got Khalil Mullings for short yardage. Yep. They can bring Alex Orji in, their backup quarterback, to run the ball. McCarthy's a really good runner. We haven't seen a lot of that this year. Maybe this is the game where he runs the ball a lot and is effective with a lot of option stuff, read option stuff. I just think there are more paths to victory for Michigan. I think Washington's path is Penix goes nuts against the number 1 pass defense in the country. And he might be that good with those receivers to do exactly that. But I don't think they win if he doesn't. I think if they're anything off schedule, if they are having to punt the ball, if they are having to kick field goals, if their predilection for going for it on a lot of 4th downs all over the field, if that bites them because they can't run it effectively on 4th and 2, then I think there's more ways for Michigan to win this game. But no, would not be a shock at all if Washington wins it, if indeed that they are 2019 LSU on offense.
All right, we're both taking Michigan. I always view these big games with like 4 potential outcomes. Team A wins big, Team B wins big, Team A wins close, Team B wins close. We're both taking Michigan. What is more likely? Because I assume we both think Michigan by a small margin in this game.
Yeah, I think 24-20 Michigan. That's my pick.
What is more likely? A Michigan blowout win or like multiple touchdown win, or Washington wins close?
Washington wins close.
I agree with you.
Yeah. If Michigan's special teams issues that cropped up out of nowhere return from the Rose Bowl, they were one of the best special teams in the country this year, and they almost lost in the game in the Rose Bowl. If that crops up again, that's a path forward for Washington. 4th down decision making, like Washington will be more aggressive than Michigan. Michigan will be old school about it. That could tip the game in Washington's favor. I don't think Michigan didn't blow out anybody good, right? They blew out Nebraska. They blew out Bowling Green. They blew out teams like that. I don't think they're not going to play the style of game that will allow them to blow out unless Penix throws like 3 picks. And I just don't see that happening.
No, I agree. The thing that makes me feel like Washington's got a real chance is it's not one of those like TCU last year. And we know how that game ended, but it was very much like, well, Georgia has to screw this up and TCU's got to get lucky here. Like there's a very obvious way for Washington to win this game.
And it's
I just
not
don't know
out
that
of
they can get to it.
Yeah, it's not out of the question because they just did it against Texas. Now they're playing a better version of that team.
This should be a blast. I'm really excited for this game.
Me too.
We have to get to another timeout. We'll get some final thoughts on the NFL weekend coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Finishing things up on 580 Sports Talk, less than an hour from the start of the national championship game. Do you have a preferred multicast feed you're going to watch?
No, I liked the coaches cam a lot when or the film room. They don't do that anymore. One year they had like the hangout room, and it was like a bunch of ESPN personalities I actually liked. Like Katie Nolan was there, Bomani Jones popped in, Pablo Torre was there, like guys I liked. So I checked out the hangout room for a little bit. Now the hangout room is just Pat McAfee and his Chud buddies, and no thanks. So I'll probably just watch the main broadcast tonight.
I liked the coaches room when they had that, and they would have David Cutcliffe like in the middle of a play saying, well, now hold on here. They'd be like 8 plays behind live time. That was great. From the weekend, NFL action, biggest storyline for you heading into the playoffs from week 18 is what?
From week 18, it's got to be the Eagles. It's got to be what has become of the defending NFC champions who started 10-1 with a win at Arrowhead Stadium, and it felt like everything was coming up Eagles, and they felt like the best team in football, and now they can't stop a nosebleed. It feels like there's infighting, there's frustration, there's injury, and they don't look like they're going to be very long for the postseason, like 1 week, if they're lucky, to get past Tampa Bay. It's just amazing how far they've fallen.
I feel the same way with Miami, honestly. And the Eagles, we thought would be better than the Dolphins this year, but the Dolphins, it looked like they had broken football. Like they had solved the sport when they put 70 on the Broncos. And it turned out to be that's an okay Broncos team by the end of the season. But the vibes are bad. They're so injured. They've got to go play in the freezing cold now against Kansas City. Just feels like a really bad setup for that team. And that's why I like the Chiefs by a lot coming up on Saturday at Arrowhead. We have one final timeout to get to. We'll come on back, wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Time for the final word here on 580 Sports Talk. All right, Dan, what you got?
Chiefs fans, I know the 2023 regular season was a bumpy ride, but it's ending with some good vibes. A win at home, a commanding win against a longtime rival, and then a feel-good win with your backups on the road to ride into the postseason on a high note. They're playing a team that is incredibly banged up. They're going to be favored. It's going to be cold. Arrowhead's going to be rocking. This will be a different path through the playoffs than these Chiefs have ever had to handle. But all they got to do is win 4 straight games, and they'll claim the Lombardi Trophy again. Have you seen Patrick Mahomes win 4 straight games before? I know I have. Time to restore the confidence, restore the good vibes. It's a new season. All the things that plagued the Chiefs, put it behind them, and be a little confident going into this postseason because there is no good reason the Chiefs can't win it all.
Final word for me is that, honestly, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you should feel pretty good about this matchup. All the things that went wrong for you over the course of the season, all the problems you have faced, all the issues that are just built into this team, and yet everybody's feeling great after that Week 18 almost quote-unquote win, and now you get to match up against a wounded Dolphins team in the freezing cold in your own building. That's a lot of positive momentum. I didn't think the Chiefs were going to have a lot of going into this year or going into this postseason year anyway. So I think if you're the Chiefs, yeah, maybe you don't have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, but you've still got a pretty sweet setup as we get ready for the playoffs to begin coming up on Saturday night. Coming up on Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk, we've got plenty more NFL to get to. We will continue looking ahead to Dolphins versus Chiefs. We will also talk all things KU. Michael Swain of Fog.net is going to swing by and join us to talk all things KU. We'll also get to what is wrong with you. We've got Random Question Tuesday and a whole lot more. Don't forget to hit us up on the text line tomorrow, 785-272-9429. Check out the YouTube as well, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We'll join you tomorrow at 2. For Dan, I'm Brendan. This is 580 Sports Talk.